Neon lights pierced the night, and the tallest building in Jiangcheng, the headquarters of Yi Group, was like a giant sword thrust into the sky. At this moment, the spiritual energy craze is sweeping across the world like a tsunami, and the air is filled with a pungent corrosive smell. It is a poisonous mist of industrial waste gas and spiritual energy. One breath will make mortals cough up blood. In the high-rise buildings, fairy lights occasionally flickered, and someone sat cross-legged on the roof and exhaled spiritual energy, but his orifices instantly bled, and his body fell like a kite with a broken string, smashing luxury cars on the street. In the Yi family hall, the lights were brightly lit, and more than 100 clan members crowded both sides of the long table. The air was sultry, mixed with the sour smell of sweat and aura, and everyone's face was filled with greed and fear. The patriarch, Gu Han, is sitting in the main seat. He is in his early 50s, his eyes are as sharp as a falcon, and his muscles are bulging under a custom-made suit, which proves that he has initially introduced the spirit into the body. Gu Han waved his hand, and a silver device the size of a fist was suspended in the center of the table. Its surface was engraved with ancient runes and emitted a soft blue light. This is a spiritual energy purification device. There are only dozens of them in the world. Our Yi family was so lucky that we snatched one from the black market. Gu Han's voice was like thunder, making the crystal chandelier tremble. The tribesmen gasped, and some people's eyes turned red as they murmured, "Purify spiritual energy. This thing can filter pollution. There are no bottlenecks in cultivation, and it goes straight to foundation building." Gu Han's lips curled up into a sneer, and he glanced at everyone. "Resources are limited and are only given to talented elites. Han Xiao, come up." A young man in his early 20s stood up. Han Xiao had a slender figure, a handsome face, and was wrapped in spiritual energy. He had reached the 3rd level of Qi training. He stepped forward confidently, holding the device in his hands, and suddenly blue light burst into his body. Han Xiao closed his eyes and worked. His face flushed, and veins popped up on his forehead. After a moment he opened his eyes and laughed. "Thank you, Patriarch. This device is really wonderful. The spiritual energy is as pure as a spring. I feel that the bottleneck is loose." The people around him screamed with envy, and a middle-aged woman trembled. "Young Master Han is extremely talented, the future pillar of the Yi family." Another old man beat his chest and said, "My grandson also practices the 2nd level of Qi, why not give it to him?" Gu Henin snorted. "Shut up. Han Xiao is the #1 genius of our Yi family, with a top-grade spiritual root, and is expected to ascend in the future. Everyone else, go to the streets and lick the poisonous spiritual Qi mist." Yiji huddled in the corner of the conference hall, her thin figure almost obscured by the crowd. She was 20 years old with messy long hair, a face as pale as paper, and an old t-shirt that had been washed white. As an abandoned daughter of the Yi family, she was born with incomplete spiritual roots, and her spiritual energy entered her body like thousands of ants eating her heart. She was ridiculed as a waste since she was a child. In today's meeting she thought she could get a piece of the pie, but she couldn't even get close to it. "Yiji, why are you still standing there?" A snarky female voice sounded. It was Gu Han's niece Yiling. She pointed at Yiji and laughed. "You are a loser. You can't even practice Qi. You still want to purify the device? Get out and beg for spiritual stones." The whole audience roared with laughter. Han Xiao turned to glance at her and said disdainfully, "I heard that the last time you inhaled spiritual energy, you vomited 3 liters of blood? Haha. Shame on the Yi family." Gu Han frowned and waved. "Yi, get out. Don't be an eyesore. Our Yi family is going to rise. Get lost." Yiji gritted her teeth, her nails dug into her palms and blood dripped. She lowered her head and said nothing, but heard Yan Exine gently tugging on her sleeve. Yan Exine was her only close friend, a round-faced girl with firm eyes who whispered, "Sister Ji Ren, let's go." Yiji's heart was as sharp as a knife. The burst of spiritual energy was originally a God-given opportunity, but she was stepped on because of her talent. There is fierce internal fighting in the family. Gu Han monopolizes resources, and his cronies like Han Xiaofei are rising to prominence, but she is not even qualified to practice. The meeting ended, and the tribesmen poured out like a tide. Yiji dragged Yan Exine and left at the end. The hall was empty. Only Guhan and Han Xiao were left whispering. Boys, practice hard. When this device is used up, grab the second one. The Yi family wants to annex the surrounding families and dominate the immortal cultivation world in Jiangcheng. Just as Yiji stepped out of the hall threshold, his feet suddenly slipped and he tripped on something hard. She lowered her head and looked, her heart beating fast. A palm-sized silver-blue device, exactly the same as Guhan's but more primitive, with runes on the surface like swimming animals. Next to it, a thumb-sized elixir rolled down. It was red in color, exuding a strong medicinal fragrance, mixed with slight fluctuations of spiritual energy. This ancient pollution filtering device? And pills? Yiji's mind roared. It must have been left behind by Guhan or Han Xiao. She looked around but no one was paying attention. Yin Xian's eyes widened. Sister Ji, this is a windfall from heaven. Hide it quickly. Yiji's palms were sweating, and she quickly stuffed it into her arms. The cold touch felt like electricity flowing through her body. They hurriedly left the headquarters and got into the rental house in Yinxin's dilapidated community. The lights in the house were dim, the poisonous aura and mist in the air was thicker. The fairy lights on the tall buildings outside the window were flashing, and the screams of the monks who died suddenly could be faintly heard. Sister Ji, this device is definitely an ancient product. 100 times better than Guhan's black market imitation. Yin Xian blushed with excitement, holding the device in both hands to study. Blue light illuminated her pupils and she murmured. The runes rotate and purify automatically. Oh my god, is that kid Han Xiao using defective products? Yiji's heart was surging but she suppressed her excitement. Don't make any noise for now. The spiritual energy has revived, and monks all over the world have narrowly escaped death. The contaminated spiritual energy is like a poison, and there is no purification device. One breath will break your muscles and veins. Guhan monopolizes resources, just to trample us wastes to death. She took out the elixir which was as red as blood. The fragrance of the medicine was fragrant in her nose, and there was a faint sound of dragon roar. Yin Xian took a breath of cold air. This elixir is of extremely high grade. It may be a foundation-building elixir or a life-changing elixir. But your physique is weak. Will your body explode if you eat it? Yi stared at the elixir, and the taunts from the meeting flashed through her mind. Trash, get out, shame. Guhan's sneer and Han Zhao's contempt were like a razor blade scratching his heart. She clenched her fists and her eyes ignited with flames. Yin Xian, I've endured enough. What about the abandoned daughter of the Yi family? Today Yi will change my fate against the will of heaven. Guhan, Han Xiao, just wait and see. She sat cross-legged and placed the purification device in front of her dantian. The blue light surged instantly, pouring into the meridians like a tide, filtering the poisonous fog in the air, leaving only pure spiritual energy filling the body like a sweet spring. Yiji took a deep breath, and the spiritual energy entered her body, but there was no pain. She opened her eyes wide and murmured, "It's so pure. The meridians are expanding." Yin Xian's eyes widened and her voice trembled. Sister Ji, your skin is glowing. The spiritual energy whirlpool. Are you on the edge of foundation building? Impossible. You are obviously a residual spirit root. Yiji didn't realize it and focused on the elixir. The red pill rolled in the palm of my hand, and a wave of heat hit my face. She hesitated for a moment, recalling the humiliation of the family meeting. Everyone laughed like a wave of laughter, and Guhan waved her hand and ignored her. The spiritual energy in her body was already restless, like a volcano gathering momentum. She gritted her teeth and said, "Fight!" The entrance to the elixir instantly turned into lava. The severe pain was like thousands of needles piercing his heart. Yiji groaned and cold sweat poured down his forehead. The meridians are torn apart inch by inch, and the spiritual energy is rushing around like a wild dragon, hitting the dantian and making a roar. Yin Xian screamed, "Sister Ji, your meridians are reshaping blood. You are vomiting blood." Blood spurted out from Yiji's mouth, staining his clothes red. The spiritual energy inside the house raged, and the window glass buzzed and trembled. Passers-by outside looked up and saw a faint blue light rising into the sky. In the severe pain, she heard a voice echoing in her body. The ancient elixir was awakening. and the residual spirit root was reversed. But the pain intensified, and her internal organs felt like they were being burned by fire. Can she withstand this desperate attempt? Darkness engulfs the field of vision, and suspense hangs like a knife from the ceiling. Will Yiji explode and die? Or will she be a phoenix in flames? Yanxian knelt on the ground, clutching Yiji's shoulders with both hands. Her round face was as pale as paper, and her voice was trembling to the point of crying. Sister Ji! Sister Ji, hold on! Your meridians! Oh my God, they are breaking and reorganizing! The blood can't stop! Tears burst out of her eyes, and she stretched out her hand to wipe the blood from the corner of Yiji's mouth, but was bounced away by the whirlpool of spiritual energy that was running rampant around her. Her arms were instantly paralyzed, and her skin was scorched black. She gritted her teeth and stood up, smelling the strong aroma of medicine and blood in the room. Her nose stung, but she didn't dare to leave even half a step. The walls of the rental house buzzed, cracks spread like spider webs, and the dim light bulbs flickered violently, reflecting Yiji's distorted face. Veins popped out on his forehead, and auras of light scurried under his skin like a swimming dragon. Darkness swallowed Yiji's consciousness like a tide, and she felt like she was falling into an endless abyss. Her internal organs seemed to be kneaded by invisible giant hands, and her meridians disintegrated inch by inch like broken threads. The lava transformed from the red elixir surged through the body, hitting the dantian with a thunderous roar, and every pulse brought heartbreaking pain. The air was filled with the smell of blood, mixed with the cool blue light emitted by the spiritual energy purification device. The night wind howled outside the window, and the sour and rotten smell mixed with poisonous mist seeped into the house. However, it was ruthlessly filtered by the device, leaving only pure spiritual currents injected into her body like silk threads. Huh! Yiji Chang exhaled a mouthful of turbid black air. When the black air fell to the ground, it corroded the floor and made a sizzling sound, emitting a pungent stench. The severe pain receded, replaced by an unprecedented sense of fullness. The spiritual energy flowed unimpeded through the meridians. The dantian was like a vast ocean, and layers of foundation-building peak realms were superimposed, faintly touching the door of the golden elixir. She stood up slowly. Her old t-shirt was soaked with sweat and blood. It stuck to her body and outlined her graceful curves. Her skin was as crystal clear as jade, exuding a faint spiritual glow. The spiritual vortex in the room gradually subsided. The purification device was suspended in her palm. The runes rotated faster, and blue light illuminated the entire room. Time seemed to freeze, and a full hour passed. Suddenly, a muffled sound came from Yiji's body, like a mountain collapsing and the ground cracking. A bright golden light erupts from the dantian. The meridians regenerate rapidly like a dead tree in spring, expanding several times, and the torrent of spiritual energy is like a river bursting its banks, washing away every inch of flesh and blood. The incomplete spiritual roots were reversed under the double baptism of the elixir and purifying spiritual energy. The hidden high-grade spiritual roots awakened and let out a low dragon roar. Her body shook suddenly, her eyes suddenly opened, and the blue and gold light in her pupils was as dazzling as the scorching sun. Yanxian was stunned on the spot. His mouth opened in an O shape, his eyes widened, and his voice was intermittent. Ji, Sister Ji. Are you okay? Your breath? Peak of foundation building.
Impossible.
You were clearly vomiting blood and unconscious just now. I thought you were going to explode. With this concentration of spiritual energy, the first level of Qi training can directly jump to the 9th level of foundation building. God, my God, yours the spiritual root. It's glowing. She rushed forward and touched Yiji's arm, feeling the steel-tough but extremely flexible skin. She pulled her fingers back tremblingly, her face full of disbelief. I'm panting at the 2nd level of Qi training, but now you can crush me with just one finger. Yiji smiled slightly, and the humiliating scene of the family meeting flashed through his eyes. Gu Han's sneer, Han Zhao's disdain, and Yiling's bitter sarcasm, all reappearing like yesterday. She clenched her fists and whispered, Yanxian, these years the Yi family has treated me like a waste. Gu Han monopolized resources and allowed Han Xiao to monopolize the black market devices. I have endured it for too long. This ancient purification device automatically filters the polluted spiritual energy, and the elixir reverses my spiritual root. From now on, Yiji will no longer be an abandoned daughter. Although her voice was low, it was filled with undeniable domineering, and there seemed to be a faint thunder in the air. Yiji shook her head and took the device back into her arms. Keep a low profile. Gu Han's eyes and ears are all over the Yi family. It's too early to expose it now. I'll help you find similar resources tomorrow and test my strength first. She pushed open the back door of the rental house, and the night wind blew against her face, mixed with the corrosive smell of Jiangqing's poisonous fog. Behind the community is an abandoned construction site with piles of rocks. Under the moonlight, the eerie smell of rust is intertwined with the sour spiritual energy. Yiji walked towards a boulder as big as a human head, with pits on the surface and a faint green mold stained by aura pollution. She took a deep breath, the purification device buzzed in her body, and pure spiritual energy instantly filled her meridians. Yin Exine wiped away her tears, nodded heavily, her round face flushed, and she was so excited that she couldn't speak coherently. Sister Ji, I'll do it with you. You've been protecting me since I was a child, and now it's my turn. Let's practice together and step on those bastards. Who is Gu Han? Han Xiao, the first genius of the Yi family? When you show your talent, their jaws will drop to the floor. Her eyes sparkled with admiration, and she couldn't wait to sit aside. Teach me quickly. Lend me this device to try. There was no one around, only the fairy light from the tall buildings in the distance shone, and occasionally the screams of the monks who died suddenly could be heard, like ghosts crying and wolves howling. Yiji gently pressed the boulder with her right palm, and the spiritual power at the peak of foundation establishment quietly surged out, soundlessly. There was a muffled click, spider web patterns cracked on the surface of the boulder, and then it collapsed. Rubbles fell like rain, hitting the ground with a dull crashing sound, and the dust was flying and mixed with the fishy smell of stone chips. Yiji retracted his palm. There was no mark on his palm, but he felt that his spiritual power was endless and could level the hill easily. Yin Exine peeked her head out from behind the door. She had just witnessed the whole process. Her legs softened and she almost collapsed. Her voice was sharp and changed in tone. Sister Ji, you can crush rocks with your palm. This is a huge rock hardened by spiritual energy pollution. Even Han Zhao's genius at the third level of Qi training can't smash it. Your power is so powerful. Those people in the Yi family would be scared to death. She rushed over and hugged Yiji's arms, her eyes full of fervent admiration. You are so powerful that you can only cultivate Qi at the first level, right? Yiji held her shoulders and a warning flashed in his eyes. Hush! Hide your strength and pretend to be useless. Gu Han is ambitious and monopolizes resources in an attempt to annex surrounding families. Let's hibernate first. They returned to the house. Yin Exine was still too excited to sleep, and the two of them whispered all night long, talking about the humiliation of these years. Yin Exine gritted her teeth. Yiling, that bitch, pushed me into the poisonous fog zone last time, saying that I was not worthy of being your friend. Sister Ji, when you rise, be the first to step on her. The sky was bright and the poisonous fog of Jiangqing's spiritual energy was getting thicker. People were coughing up blood and falling to the ground on the streets outside the window. The air was filled with blood and rotten stench. Yiji is sitting cross-legged practicing. The purification device is humming, and the pure spiritual energy is circulating like a tide. She is at the peak of her stable foundation and has a faint golden elixir atmosphere. Yin Exine imitated on the side. Although he had no device, he was contaminated by the aftermath of spiritual energy, and broke through the third level of Qi training. His face turned red with joy. Suddenly, the mobile phone buzzed and an internal announcement from the Yi family popped up. The bold red font was eye-catching. The family genius test will be held at the headquarters tomorrow. Elites with Qi training and above will participate, and the winner will receive spiritual stones and black market resources. Don't disturb the waste. Gu Han, the patriarch. Yiji sneered with murderous intent flashing in his eyes. Here he comes. Han Xiao will definitely show off his power. Everyone laughs at me as an abandoned daughter. It's just a good opportunity to show off my talents, but not all of them, so I can save some strength. Yin Exine clenched his fists. Sister Ji, torture them. Make Gu Han regret treating you like nothing. At noon the next day, the lobby of the Yi Group headquarters was once again overcrowded. The sun shines in through the floor-to-ceiling windows, but is dyed with a strange green glow by the poisonous spiritual energy mist. The air is hot and sultry, mixed with the smell of sweat and excited breathing. The tribesmen huddled together. Gu Han was sitting on a high platform, wearing a suit bulging with spiritual power. Han Xiao was standing beside him. His handsome face was full of arrogance, and the 4 layers of qi training around his body shimmered, and he had borrowed the black market device to go a step further. Yiling screamed in the audience. "Look, the loser Yiji is here too. Does she dare to compete? She was kicked out of the last meeting, why don't you give up?" The crowd roared with laughter, and a fat tribesman pounded the table. "Yiji, get out. In the genius test, you can't even get to the first level of qi training." Another middle-aged man said secretly. "I heard that she was crying and howling in the community last night. She must be on the verge of death from drugs. Patriarch Gu, drive her away, she is an eyesore." Yiji lowered her head and walked in. Her old t-shirt was dirty, her face was pale and she pretended to be weak. She followed her words closely and bit her lip to hold back her anger. Gu Han glanced at her and snorted coldly. "The losers are here to make up the numbers? Okay, the test is divided into 3 rounds. Spiritual power competition, purification resistance, and combat duel. The loser gets out of the Yi family." Han Xiao laughed and stepped forward. His spiritual energy shook. The airwaves in the hall rolled and the tables and chairs shook. He pointed at Yiji and said in a voice like a knife, "Yiji, in the first round of the spiritual power competition, you go first. Do you dare? You loser, kneel down and admit defeat. I will spare your life." The whole audience burst into laughter, and Yiling clapped her hands. "Young Master Han, crush her. Let this shame know that the sky is high and the earth is high." Yiji slowly raised his head. A trace of amusement flashed in his eyes, but it quickly disappeared. She pretended to be trembling and stepped forward, raising her palms slightly, releasing only a layer of disguised spiritual power from qi training. Han Xiao waved her palm disdainfully, and her spiritual power rushed towards her like a strong wind, expecting to blow her away. Everyone held their breath and Gu Han sneered, looking forward to a good show. Unexpectedly, Yiji made a mistake in his steps, and his figure flashed past like a ghost. Han Zhao's palm failed and smashed a mahogany table, causing sawdust to fly and mixed with a burning smell. Yiji made a light backhand, pretending to be spiritual, and hit Han Zhao's shoulder accurately, using only 3 points of force. Han Xiao groaned and took 3 steps back, his handsome face turned pale, and for the first time horror appeared in his eyes. "You? How did you dodge? At this speed? The second level of qi training? Impossible." The whole place was dead silent. Yiling's eyes widened and her scream was stuck in her throat. "Master Han, you lost? The trash pushed you with 1 finger." The fat tribesman rubbed his eyes. "Is it an hallucination? When did Yiji have spiritual power?" Gu Han suddenly stood up, narrowed his eagle eyes and said in a low voice, "You hidden it?" The air in the hall instantly solidified, like an invisible lead pressing on everyone's chest. Green poisonous mist seeped in through the cracks in the windows, mixed with the pungent smell of sweat and burnt wood. Immortal lights flashed randomly among the tall buildings outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, and the heart-rending screams of the monks who died suddenly could be faintly heard in the distance. The eyes of all the tribesmen widened and their mouths opened, but no sound came out. The fat tribesman's hands were still hanging in the air, and the mocking expression on his face turned into a comical distortion. Yiling's scream stopped suddenly, her face turned as white as a ghost. Her hands tremblingly grabbed the hem of her skirt, her knuckles turned white. This is impossible. Master Han, are you kidding her? How could a loser touch you?" Han Xiao stabilized his figure. His handsome face turned the color of pig liver, and his shoulders ached with pain. The aftermath of the needle-like spiritual power was still swaying in his meridians, making his spiritual energy at the 4th level of qi training vaguely disordered. He gritted his teeth, spit fire in his eyes, and shouted suddenly, "You little bitch! What tricks are you hiding? It was just a fluke." The aura around him surged, the effect of the black market device buzzed in his body. The aura surged like a violent wave, and faintly broke through the bottleneck boom. A muffled thunder erupted from his dantian, and his aura suddenly rose to the early stage of foundation establishment, reaching the peak in the middle stage. The floor of the hall trembled, the tables and chairs made a rattling sound, the poisonous mist was forced back by his spiritual pressure, and the air was filled with the pungent stench of burnt spiritual energy. The whole audience gasped. Gu Han's eagle eyes narrowed, his mouth twitched, and his voice was as low as a beast's roar. Han Xiao, established the foundation? Okay, the black market device really lived up to expectations. Yiji, your trick ends here. In the first round of spiritual power competition, Han Xiao won, but for the sake of fairness, in the second round of purification resistance, you go up. Trash, dare you take a breath of filth? Are you infected with spiritual energy? The spiritual energy pool on the stage has been opened, and the concentration of poisonous mist is 10 times that of the street. Qi training monks will die violently if they inhale it. He pointed his finger, and a bronze pool rose in the center of the high platform. The green and black spiritual energy in the pool rolled like a poisonous dragon, and the sour and putrid smell hit his nose. As the runes flickered, the spiritual mist spurted out, instantly making the surrounding tribesmen cough and their skin blistered red. Yin Exine snickered behind her, her heart beating like a drum. Sister Ji is awesome. This is just the beginning. Yiji lowered her head and pretended to be timid. It's just a fluke. But she sneered in her heart. Han Xiao, is the bottleneck of your black market device loose? In front of the peak of my foundation building, I am like an ant. The test continues, the second round of purification resistance. How will she use ancient devices to shock the audience? Gu Han's conspiracy is beginning to take shape, and the family crisis is brewing. Yiji's rise is destined to stain Jiangqing with blood. Yiji pretended to be pale and staggered forward. Her old t-shirt was wet with sweat and her face was even more frail. In the eyes of everyone, she was already dead. She stepped onto the high platform, and the green mist from the edge of the spiritual energy pool wrapped around her ankles like a living thing. It burned her skin and made a sizzling sound. The soreness penetrated her meridians and made her dantian tremble faintly. Han Xiao sneered and stepped forward. His foundation-building spiritual pressure was overwhelming. Trash, kneel down and beg for mercy. I will let you live a little longer. He slapped a palm, and the spiritual power in the middle stage of foundation building condensed into the shadow of tiger claws, roaring and rushing towards her. The claw wind tore the air, making a sharp roar, and expected to push her into the pool and kill her suddenly. The audience held their breath. Gu Han crossed his arms, and a sinister flash appeared in his eyes. Die, you annoying abandoned daughter. Yiling's eyes shone with excitement. Young Master Han, beat her to death. Just when the tiger's claws were barely touching Yiji's shoulders, a blue-gold light flashed in her eyes, and the ancient purification device in her arms suddenly activated. The ancient silver-blue runes were spinning wildly. The buzzing sound resounded like a dragon's roar throughout the hall, and the pure spiritual energy poured out from her body like the Milky Way. The polluting green mist was instantly absorbed and filtered, turning into a blue-gold torrent that bit back at the tiger's claws. With a click, the shadow shattered. Han Xiao flew backwards with a groan, smashing through the guardrail of the high platform, and hitting the wall with a loud noise. The cobwebs on the wall cracked, and the dust and blood mixed with it. Yiling came back to her senses and laughed loudly, her voice as harsh as scraping iron. Haha, come on you trash. You couldn't even get in during the last meeting. Take a sip this time and you're guaranteed to explode on the spot. Master Han, prepare to see the joke. The fat tribesman echoed and laughed. Fuchi. Yes, ye get in. Patriarch Gu is wise, let her destroy herself. Yin Exine clenched her fists behind her. Her face was pale. She bit her lips and whispered. Sister Ji, be careful. This spiritual energy pool. Even the third level of my qi training makes me dizzy just by smelling it. No. Han Xiao fell to the ground spurting blood, his handsome face twisted. His spiritual energy was easily crushed in the middle stage of foundation establishment. His meridians were like fire, and fear and awe appeared in his eyes for the first time. This purity of spiritual energy. Peak foundation establishment? No, golden elixir breath. You are a monster. He got up, his knees were weak, and his voice was trembling uncontrollably. Impossible. The black market device can only be in the early stage of foundation establishment. How can you purify it so pure? My spiritual pressure. is as weak as an ant. Gu Han suddenly jumped up, his suit bulged, and the 5th level of Qi training was fully activated. His eagle eyes stared at the faint blue light in Yiji's arms, and his voice was as gloomy as a poisonous snake. Yi, where did you get the purification magic weapon? Black market product? Tell me. His spiritual pressure was like a strong wind. Sweeping tables and chairs flew over, and sawdust flew and stung, but Yiji remained motionless. The blue-gold spiritual shield around her body was like an invincible golden bell. The purification device rotated faster, filtering Gu Han's spiritual pressure into nutrients, feeding back to her dantian, and making her golden elixir gate faintly loosen. The aroma of medicine and blood intertwined in the air, and the spiritual energy pool had dried up, leaving only the blue glow that reflected the shocked faces of everyone. The hall was as silent as a graveyard. Then screams broke out. Yiling's legs went weak and she sat down on the ground, screaming like a ghost. Xiao Fei Han! What a waste of a palm! Her aura. Blue and gold, why isn't it polluted? The fat tribesman rubbed his eyes and shook his head wildly with a broken voice. Illusion! The poisonous mist of the aura pool was covered by it. Did she absorb all the blue light on the floor? It was so pure that she hid the treasure. The middle-aged man took 3 steps back, sweating like rain. The abandoned daughter of the Yi family, it's over. Yin Xen couldn't help it any longer, and rushed forward to cheer, her round face flushed with tears. Sister Ji, you are too strong. You knocked Han Xiao away in the middle stage of foundation establishment with one palm. You sucked up the poisonous mist in the whole place, and the blue light exploded beautifully. Those mocking bastards, now their chins shattered to the ground. She hugged Yiji's arm, feeling the jade-like warmth but steel-tough skin, and was so excited that she said, I'm going to practice the 3rd level of Qi, just kill the gods. Yiling, didn't you just come over and lick your shoes? Yiji gathered her aura, pretended to be out of breath, lowered her head and said timidly, It's a fluke. The device is a relic of the ancestors, I just woke up. But the murderous intent was in his eyes and he sneered in his heart. Gu Han, you have monopolized resources and oppressed me for many years, and Han Xiaoyao has been as powerful as a dog. Now you know that the sky is too high? The peak of foundation building is in front of me. Just an ant. She glanced at Han Xiao. The boy's eyes were complicated with fear mixed with awe and he murmured, Sister Yi. I was wrong. Your purification. Teach me. Gu Han's face was livid, he suppressed his anger, and waved his hand to stop the noise. 2nd round, Yi wins. The 3rd round of battle is postponed. Reward distribution. Yiji, 10 low-grade spiritual stones, and a purification bead on the black market. He gritted his teeth, appearing generous, but in fact his eyes were filled with dark clouds. Everyone murmured, Trash counterattack? Patriarch Gu's snobbery slaps you in the face. Blue gold aura, pure and unparalleled. The Yi family is about to change. Yiling got up and stared at Yiji bitterly, but did not dare to say a word. The test ended hastily. When the clan members dispersed, they still looked back. The blue glow and blood remained in the air. The poisonous fog became thicker outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, and there were faint glimpses of outsiders snooping. Yijila Yinxian left and Han Xiao caught up with her on the way, whispering, Sister Yi, your device? Give me some aura? I'm stuck, I'm willing to follow. Yiji smiled faintly. It depends on the performance. Yinxian snickered, her heartbeat quickened. Sister Ji, Han Xiao is too weak. Gu Han's face is as green as shit. Returning to the rental house, the night wind howled and smelled rotten. Yiji sat cross-legged and practiced. The purification device hummed. The realm became more stable after absorbing the spiritual stone, and the shadow of the golden elixir loomed. Yin Xinsho stood by and said excitedly, Sister Ji, I have a great time today. The whole audience knelt down. What's the next step to step on Yiling? In the rental house, the dim lights flickered like will-o'-the-wisps, and the night wind howled outside the window, mixed with the sour and rotten smell of Zhongqing's poisonous fog, which faintly seeped into the gaps, making the air as sticky as if it were coated with glue. Yiji sat cross-legged on the futon. The silver-blue purification device buzzed and hummed, and the blue-gold spiritual energy around her body slowly rotated like a tide. 10 low-grade spiritual stones had turned into powder and scattered. leaving a faint smell of stone powder mixed with the fragrance of medicine. She opened her eyes, and the shadow of the golden elixir in her eyes flashed away. The peak of the foundation building was more stable, and the sky was faintly touching the chasm. Yanexan curled up next to her, her round face pressed against her knees, and she murmured in a low voice, "Sister Ji, those bastards turned green. The moment Han Xiao vomited blood, I felt so happy." Suddenly, the shadow outside the window moved, and a figure in black approached like a ghost, holding a thumb-sized surveillance bead. The light inside the bead shimmered slightly, capturing the blue glow in the house. Yiji's lips curled up slightly and she sneered inwardly. Gu Han's dog came so fast. She flicked her fingers and a strand of blue-gold spiritual thread shot out silently, piercing the curtain and going straight into the secret guard's eyebrows. The man groaned, his eyes bulged, and the surveillance beads shattered with a crisp explosion. Blood spray spurted out from his nostrils. His body fell to the balcony like a puppet with its strings cut off, and splashed muddy water when it hit the ground. The crunching sound of broken bones and the smell of bloody iron and rust filled the air. Yiji opened her eyes with a cold light in her eyes. "Keep a low profile." Gu Han was suspicious and sent someone to follow her. Sure enough, the shadow outside the window flashed, and a figure in black lurked, holding a surveillance weapon, and headed straight for her secret. Outside the hall, Gu Han dialed the phone with a cold voice. "Check. Where did Yiji's device come from? Call in the secret guards and kill her. I am the only one who has the final say in the Yi family." In the night sky of Jiangcheng, fairy light intertwined with murderous intent, and the family conspiracy spread like poisonous mist. "Yiji's bloodbath is ready to go." Yiji stood up, patted her shoulder, and said in a gentle but steely voice, "Yanexan, from tonight onwards, you will officially become my master. I will teach you the art of purifying the heart. Although the ancient device is unique, the skills can be divided. The spiritual energy is revived. Monks all over the world are dying like dogs. Jiangcheng's black market is selling fake purification beads. Only pure spiritual energy is available. If you are stuck in the third level of Qi training, join forces with me to build the foundation." Yanexan knelt down, his forehead touching the ground, his voice choked and trembling. "Master, I will follow you to death. From the day the abandoned daughter counterattacked, I knew you were the chosen one. Those who laughed at you, that bitch Yiling will step on you." Yiji pulled her to stand up, and pressed her palm on Yanexan's dantian. Silver blue runes were projected out, and a humming sound like a dragon's roar echoed throughout the cabin. The blue-gold spiritual energy was injected like silk thread, and Yanxin's meridians were instantly as hot as fire. She screamed, sweating like rain, and her round face was twisted. "Hot! Master, the meridians are expanding. It hurts like hell." But the pain was refreshing. The spiritual roots glowed faintly, and the residual poison of the black market fake beads was filtered out and turned into green smoke. It spurted out from the pores, and the room was suddenly sour and pungent. Yanexan gritted his teeth and persisted. Half an hour later, boom. Thunder exploded in the dantian. The aura of the initial stage of foundation building exploded. Spiritual light poured out from the whole body like a river of stars. The floor shook, and the old sofa cracked and cracked. She opened her eyes, blue light flashed in her pupils. She hugged Yiji and shed tears of joy. "The foundation has been established. Master passed the skill with one finger, and I broke through the bottleneck. This art of purifying the heart, such a magical skill. Who has it in Jiangcheng? Gu Han's 5th level of Qi training is bullshit." The two of them worked together, and the device rotated faster. The torrent of blue and gold was like the Milky Way hanging upside down, absorbing the poisonous mist outside the window and purifying it. The rental house turned into a spiritual blessing, and the medicinal fragrance was so strong that it felt like being in a fairy mountain. Immortal lights flashed from high-rise buildings in the distance, and the screams of monks who died suddenly and the roar of magical weapons could be heard faintly. The night sky in Jiangcheng was filled with murderous intent. Under the frenzy of spiritual energy, there were many families, and the black market was boiling like a pool of blood. Yiji whispered, "The world is getting bigger, only masters and disciples can gain a foothold. Tomorrow, when the family resources are allocated, Gu Han will definitely overpower me." There was a sharp knock on the door. accompanied by a familiar gasp. Yiji's consciousness swept away and he opened the door with a sneer. Han Xiao stood in a state of embarrassment. His handsome face was pale. His shoulders were wrapped in gauze and bleeding. His aura was disordered at the peak of the foundation building stage, and the black market device was buzzing and powerless. His knees softened and his voice trembled like chaff. Sister Yi. No, Master Yi. Spare your life. After the test, the meridians burned, the spiritual pressure backfired, and the black market device was 70% useless. I was wrong. I used to show off my power like a dog. Please take some time to purify the spiritual energy. Follow you, the Yi family. I respect all the resources. His forehead touched the ground, his clothes were soaked with sweat, and the smell of blood filled his nose. His eyes were full of fear and enthusiasm. Your blue and gold aura is as pure as a fairy source. How many geniuses have been killed by Gu Han's monopoly on fakes? Yin Xian laughed with his hands on his hips, spitting out the foundation building spiritual pressure. Han Xiao groaned and backed away. Master Han? You kneeled down so fast. Just now, you vomited blood and flew off the wall in the test, and now you are licking your shoes? Master, step on him. Yiji glanced at him, took out the black market purification bead from his arms, injected it with blue gold aura, and the bead suddenly glowed with silver. She threw it out. Swallow it to help you stabilize in the midterm. But from now on, the Resource Council will help me. Han Xiao caught it with ecstasy, swallowed it with a bang. His dantian roared. His meridians were reshaped, and he reached the peak of the midterm foundation building, reaching the late stage. He stood up, the aura around him surged, old wounds healed instantly, his handsome face flushed, and he knelt down. Thank you, Master Yi. The elixir is so effective that the black market is unparalleled. Gu Han, that old dog, all the resources are for you. Outside the Yi family in Jiangcheng, there is a bigger force targeting the black market, Chanfeng. I heard that he has clues about ancient magic weapons, a hidden master. Yin Xian woke up suddenly, her round eyes widened. Sister Ji, there is someone outside the window. She threw herself to the window and saw the twisted body through the cracks in the curtain. Her face turned pale and she trembled. Dead? One finger. The secret guard sent by Gu Han, with the Yi family emblem on the black clothes. God, even the spiritual energy of the corpse has not dissipated. The 4th level of Qi training. She turned around, her eyes burning with fervor. Sister Ji, you are so amazing. You can kill the secret guards of the Jiangcheng Yi family in an instant without even moving your fingers, and now Gu Han is blinded. The next day, the Yi family hall was brightly lit. The high platform spiritual pool was restarted. The smell of burnt wood and sweat was intertwined in the air. The mist of Jiangcheng was billowing outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, and the faint magic weapon roared and shook the ground. Gu Han sat in the main seat, his suit bulging, and the 5-level spiritual pressure of Qi training was like a mountain. He scanned the clan members with his eagle eyes. Resource allocation has started again. 50 spiritual stones and 10 purification beads are new in the black market. Han Xiao, you are in the middle of foundation building, take the big head. Yiji, the waist is a fluke. Get out of here, 5 spiritual stones on the corner. He sneered, his eyes full of evil, and the fat tribesmen laughed in agreement. Yes. The abandoned daughter killed the secret guard last night? Chief Gu, let Yiling go. Yiling stood up and screamed. Young Master Han, get rid of her. The 3 people in the house practiced together until dawn, and the blue and gold spiritual energy soared into the sky, faintly alarming passers-by on the street. The beggar on the roadside stared wide-eyed and murmured. Immortal light in the rental house? There is a monster in the waste area. In the high-rise building, the body of the secret guard was found. Gu Han called gloomily. Dead? Yiji golden elixir aura? Call the elders. Gu Han's face turned pale and he roared angrily. Traitor! Did you do it for the bodyguard's corpse? Deprive Yiji of his qualifications. The elders' meeting will decide. He pointed with his finger, turned his spiritual power into an arrow and shot at Yiji, which was expected to explode. But Yiji didn't move at all. The silver-blue device rotated slightly, the blue-gold spiritual shield unfolded, and the arrows turned back into nutrients. She stood up and said in a timid voice, Clan leader, is it fair? In fact, the spiritual pressure was hidden. Gu Han groaned and took 3 steps back, sweating like rain, and his voice was trembling. You? Golden elixir? Everyone gasped, and the middle-aged man stared. Han Xiao calls the master? Yiji collects the genius? Patriarch Gu's spiritual arrow shattered into pieces, like paper. Han Xiao suddenly stood up. His handsome face was livid, and the spiritual pressure exploded across the hall. The tables and chairs were flying with sawdust and stung his nose. Clan leader Gu, shut up. Master Ye's purification skills will help me reach the peak in the midterm. You monopolize fakes and harm my meridians? Give all the resources to Master Yi. Otherwise, I will quit the Yi family. The whole place was dead silent. The fat tribe member rubbed his eyes and shook his head wildly. Young Master Han is crazy? Kneel down and lose weight. Yi Ling screamed and her legs weakened. Master Han, are you fascinated by the blue and gold spiritual energy? Yin Xen burst into laughter, and the foundation building spirit flashed. Master is mighty. The whole audience kneels down and licks. Han Xiao protected his side and whispered, Master, I found out the clues about Chun Feng on the black market. He hid the ancient magic weapon Slaughter the Sky Sword in the underground auction in Jiang City, which can purify the spiritual energy 10 times. Gu Han wants to steal it. You and I join forces. Yiji nodded with a cold light in his eyes. Chun Feng, a mysterious ally, is here. In the secret room in the back hall of the Yi family, the spiritual lamp flickered faintly blue on the stone wall, and the air was filled with the strong smell of old mold and rot and Gu Han's body sweat, mixing into a nauseating sultry heat. The elders were sitting around the 8 immortals table. The dozen or so people were all old monsters at the peak of their late stage of chi training. Their wrinkles were like ravines, and their hawk-like eyes were fixed on Gu Han. He slammed the table and his spiritual power exploded. Wood chips flew into the air, and the pungent woody fragrance overflowed. Elders, that abandoned daughter of Yiji must be cheating. The test of spiritual pressure backfired on Han Xiao, and the resource conference spirit arrow shattered my arrows? How did she purify the black market fake beads to the blue gold fairy energy? Han Xiao rebelled, and he must have been fascinated by her magic. Check her background, strip her of her qualifications, send out all the secret guards, and destroy her party members. The fat elder Yi Fu rubbed his belly and laughed in agreement. Greasy beads of sweat rolled down and he banged the table. The patriarch is wise. The abandoned daughter is at the first level of chi training. How can she hide in seconds? Han Zhao's old men obey the order and suppress that trash. Yi Ling, bring your cousins up and expose her fake. Yi Ling responded with a sharp voice, rushed in from the side door, and screamed. Her face was twisted, and her eyes were full of hatred. Uncle Yiji used black market poison beads to make young Master Han vomit blood. Elders, last night she rented a house with blue lights shining into the sky, killing people and killing people. Behind her were 5 young men from Han Zhao's old team, who were in the early stages of foundation building. Their handsome faces were livid, and their spiritual pressure was spitting out. The air in the secret room hummed as oppressively as a landslide. The news spread like wind, and people from the hall tribesmen rushed into the back hall. Yan Xinyuan's face turned pale, and he pulled Yiji's sleeve and said tremblingly, Master Gu Han jumped over the wall in a hurry, and joined forces with Han Jiu to frame him. The meeting of elders. When you enter, you will be crushed by spiritual pressure. How can we, the foundation builder, withstand 10 people at the peak of chi training? Han Xiaojuan's face was pale, and his forehead was wet with sweat. The eyes of the old men were like daggers. Master Yi, those bullies are my old brothers. Together with their spiritual pressure, they can explode the middle stage of foundation building. I can't convince you. They are loyal to the winter holiday goods chain. The tribesmen whispered and ridiculed. The trash is here. The elders are peeling and cramping. Yi Ling put her hands on her hips and laughed wildly. Kneel down and beg for mercy, abandoned daughter. Yiji lowered her eyebrows and pretended to be timid as she moved forward. But in fact, the golden elixir in her dantian was faintly gleaming, and her spiritual pressure at the peak of foundation building was dormant like a dragon. When she stepped into the secret room, Gu Han's eagle eyes lit up, and his spiritual power was transformed into a net, and he expected to tear his meridians to pieces. The fat elder Yi Fu smiled sinisterly. You little bitch, hand over the purification beads. Black market products. Poison your whole family to death. The youths from the old tribe shouted together. The spiritual pressure was like a hammer. The air exploded, the wooden table cracked and shattered, and the smell of mold and rot was filled with the omen of blood. Yin Exine screamed and her legs weakened. Master! Han Xiao gritted his teeth to protect himself, but was glanced at by his old subordinate, who trembled slightly and took half a step back. The moment the spiritual net touched Yiji's hair, the silver-blue device in her arms suddenly buzzed, ancient runes flourished, and the blue-gold spiritual shield exploded like a galaxy. Boom! The backlash spirit web turned into green smoke, green poisonous residue sprayed everywhere, and the sour and pungent smell was like falling into a poisonous pool. Gu Han grunted and retreated violently. He hit the stone wall and dust hit his face. He coughed out black blood foam. His face instantly turned pale. This device is ancient? The fat elder Yifu's eyes bulged, and his greasy body trembled like a sieve. Blue-gold spiritual energy. Pure and innocent. Gu, how can you compare to the fake pearls on the black market? Han Jubi, you are blind. The young man from the Jubi eyes widened, his spiritual pressure collapsed, and his knees softened. Brother Han. This purification, Gu Han's fakes have damaged our meridians 80%. She is a true god. The corner of Yiji's mouth slightly curled up, and she said warmly, Clan leader elders cheating? Please watch. She tapped her fingers and the silver-blue device rotated in the air, buzzing like a dragon's roar, absorbing the poisonous mist in the secret room, and a torrent of blue and gold poured out. The medicinal fragrance was as strong as a fairy mountain, washing the whole place instantly. The elders took a sip, and the burning pain in their meridians subsided, and their spiritual roots glowed faintly. The middle-aged elder Yi Kuan's round eyes were ecstatic, and his voice trembled. Oh my God! The residual poison is discharged, green smoke spurts from the pores, and the bottleneck of my 9th level of Qi training is loosened. Yi, how wonderful is this secret? Gu Han, 1 billion fake beads on the black market. I can't afford a wisp of it. Yi Wei, another gray-haired elder, covered her chest and cried, Girl, save my grandson from death. All the resources are for you, Gu Han. There was a dead silence in the audience. Fat Yifu rubbed his eyes and shook his head. Impossible. Blue gold is 10 times pure. The treasure of abandoned girls. Yin Exine laughed with his hands on his hips, his foundation-building aura shimmering. His round face flushed feverishly. Did you see it? Master, you are exposed. You are such an ant. Gu Han, old dog, how many geniuses have been killed by fakes? Kneel down and thank me. Han Zhao's old man got up, turned to Yiji and knelt down, his handsome face twisted in fanaticism. Master Yi, we made the mistake of following the old dog, and we will obey your orders from now on. Your purification pearl, the magic pill. Let's spit out all the clues about Chun Feng in the black market. Han Xiao patted his shoulders and said in a low voice. Master Yi, the 5 people from the old team have joined forces to grab the 2 Qiankang sword. Yiji nodded, a cold light flashed in his eyes and said secretly, Conquer the neutral elders Yi Kuan and Yi Wei, and explore the black market after the resource meeting. Gu Han, if you are anxious, you will bite. The hall was noisy, resources were suspended, and clan members whispered. Yiji accepts Han Xiao? New force? Jiangqing's immortality circle is about to change. Gu Han retreated to the secret room, summoned the elders. His voice was like a poisonous snake. Deprive. Next meeting, kill Yiji's gang members. All the secret guards are out, and the black market Qinfeng is also moving. The fairy lights outside the window are dancing wildly. Jiangqing's underground undercurrent is surging, and Yiji's bloody path is unstoppable. Gu Han's face was livid, he was sweating like rain, and his voice was hoarse and trembling. Monster! Elder, don't believe it. She killed the secret guards and her gang members broke up the family. But Yi Kuan stood up, spitting out his spiritual energy and pressed it on Gu Han's shoulder. The middle-aged man's face was livid. Shut up. Purify your kindness, resource leader Yiji. Han's old department, it is not guilty to switch sides. Yi Wei sharply agreed. 5th elder of the neutral force. Come with me. The world has changed. Yi Ling screamed at Gu Han's feet. Uncle, what a waste of magic. The clan members gasped and whispered. Elder Yiji Shou? Gu Han is dead. Fat Yifu stared and muttered. The golden elixir level? Abandoned girl? The meeting ended hastily, the lights in the Yi family hall flickered. The clan members looked at each other with complicated eyes, and the scent of medicine lingered in the air, faintly buzzing. Yiji led the party members away. Yen Exine threw herself on her arms, her round eyes flashed. Master, the counterattack is great. Gu Han's face is as green as shit. The elders trembled and knelt and licked. Han's old troops turned their heads as fast as a dog. Han Xiao protected the side. 5 people from the old troops guarded him and whispered, Master Yi, the layout perfect. Elder Yi Kuan invites us to practice together to purify the spirit pool. Yiji's eyes were deep, and he smelled the faint omen of blood in the mist of Jiangqing outside the window. Okay, let's work together to speed up the equipment. But be careful, Gu Han has contacted the black market, and Chun Feng's clues have changed. Night falls again at the edge of the Yi family's territory. The mist rolls in the ancient forest, and the sour and poisonous mist mixes with the roars of wild beasts. Suddenly, boom! Immortal light exploded on the top of the mountain in the distance. The magic weapon roared like thunder, the ground shook and gravel splashed into the territory, accompanied by the monk's screams and the wet sound of flesh and blood being torn apart. Gu Han rushed out of the hall, his suit bulging, his eagle eyes gloomy. Foreign enemies are invading. Black Market Casual Cultivator Alliance, seizing the spirit pool. Yiji, your new party members go to the front line to block it. Han Xiao leads the army in the middle stage of foundation building, and the abandoned daughter practices qi to charge. He sneered and pushed, and Fat Yifu echoed, Yes, waste proves loyalty, otherwise you are a traitor. The tribesman whispered, Death?
Gu Hans poisonous plan.
Yen Xian's face turned pale, and he pulled Yiji. Master trap. There are 10 foreign enemies in the late stage of foundation building, and the spiritual pressure is like a mountain. How can we stop it? Han Zhao's old subordinates clenched their fists and trembled. Master Yi, Gu Han wants to borrow a knife to kill people, and there are magical weapons in the black market. The corner of Yiji's mouth curled up with a cold arc, the silver-blue device turned slightly, and the blue-gold spiritual thread pierced Gu Han's eyebrows. He groaned and trembled, sweating like rain. Yiji said warmly, I will obey the order of the clan leader. See you at the front. He sneered in his heart. To turn danger into safety, the ancient device purifies 10 times. The clues of the sky-slaying sword will be revealed. Foreign enemies will become my ladder. Internal fighting escalated. Spiritual pressure collided in the secret room. Tables and chairs burst into pieces and sawdust stung his nose. Gu Han took 3 steps back, eyes blazing with poison, and secretly crushed the jade slip. Black Market Chun Feng joined forces. Yiji, we will destroy it. Yiji lowered his device and pretended to smile timidly. Clan leader, Ziyuangong will share it with me, and I'll give you $5. In fact, Yen Exine folded his arms and said happily, Master, the elder's eyes have changed, and he is as worshipful as a dog. Han Xiao whispered. Master Yi, the neutral forces have conquered, and the black market is going to be auctioned tomorrow night? In the ancient forest, poisonous mist rolled like ink, mixed with the pungent smell of rusty blood and scorched earth. In the howling night wind, there was a faint crunching sound of cracking bones and the muffled groan of the monks. As soon as Yiji's gang members rushed out of the edge of the territory, 10 black shadows rushed towards them like ghosts. The old monsters of the Black Market Loose Cultivators Alliance in the late stage of foundation building, each had their spiritual pressure like a mountain. The air buzzed and twisted, and the mist was pressed into a vortex. The soil on the ground splashed up, and a greasy smell of earth hit their faces. The leader is a bald man with scars on his face twisted like a centipede. The blood-red phalon in his hand is buzzing and spinning, exuding a sour odor that corrodes the spiritual energy. Yi family waste? Gu Han sent a message that your party members have newly formed, and the abandoned daughter Yiji is leading the way to death. The spiritual pool belongs to us, and the black market Chun Feng promises to kill you all. Yen Xinyuan's face instantly turned pale. The spiritual pressure in the initial stage of foundation building was crushed and her meridians tingled. She tightened Yiji's sleeves and her voice trembled like a candle in the wind. Master! The 10 of them are in the later stage. Phelan Rot's spiritual energy specializes in breaking through the meridians. We can't hold on. Stop. Han Xiaojuan's face was ashen. The knees of the 5 young men in the old team who were in the early stage of foundation building were weak. They combined their spiritual pressure to form a net, but they were brushed by the blood-red Phelan. The net sizzled, green poisonous smoke spattered, and the pain that burned their skin made them gasp. One of the young men covered his arms and wailed, "Brother Han, these casual cultivators are 10 times more poisonous, and their meridians are 30% rotten. Master Yi, retreat. Gu Han borrows the sword, we are cannon fodder." The tribesmen watched from a distance, whispering, "Yiji's gang members are finished." He led the army in the middle stage of foundation building, met 10 people in the later stage, lost the spiritual pool, and the abandoned daughter proved his loyalty? What a joke! Gu Han stood on the high platform. His eagle eyes flashed gloomily. His suit was swollen by the night wind. He laughed wildly with his hands on his hips, his voice like the neighing of a poisonous snake that spread through the forest. "Yi Han Xiao, go to the front line to prevent disasters and prove your loyalty. Otherwise, the traitor will be skinned and cramped." Yiling's pointed face twisted, and she threw herself at his feet, screaming with hatred. "Uncle, kneel down to see the trash. The foreign enemy's magic weapon, blue and gold. I can't save him." Fatty Yifu rubbed his belly and greasy sweat rolled down. "Yes, the Lingqi can't be defended. Yi Kuan and Yi Wei's gang of traitorous elders are also coming." The tribesmen in the distance gasped, and the middle-aged neutral elder Yi Kuan's face twitched, and Yi Wei's gray hair trembled. Gu Han's poisonous plan, the newly established party members will push the fire pit. Yi, no matter how great the kindness is. The enemy cultivator laughed, the scarred man's spiritual pressure exploded, and the blood-red Phelan crashed down. Boom, the ancient tree broke and sawdust flew in pungent. One of Han Zhao's old men was swept away by the aftermath. Blood holes gushed out from his chest, and hot blood spattered onto Yen Xian's face. It was fishy and sweet. The stickiness made her legs weak and she screamed, "Achong! Master, they are too strong." Han Xiao gritted her teeth to protect her front, spat out her peak spiritual pressure in the middle stage of foundation building, and barely blocked the second blow, but the shock caused the tiger's mouth to split open, and blood dripped down the sword, corroding the ground. He turned his head, his handsome face was pale and wet with sweat. "Master Yi, the old troops have injured 2 people, and the spirit pool has been broken by 30%. We can't hold on for 100 breaths." Gu Han smiled from afar, and borrowed the sword to help. The whole place was filled with despair. The black shadow in the fog was approaching. The cold light of the magic weapon flashed like a death scythe, and the wet sound of tearing flesh and blood was endless. Yiji stood still with lowered eyebrows, pretending to be a timid figure swaying in the fog. The silver-blue device in his arms was buzzing slightly, and the simple runes were faintly hot. She smelled the strong smell of rot and fear in the air, and with a cold flash in her eyes, she secretly took inventory. The red elixir reshaped the meridians, the 10 spiritual stones were absorbed to build a stable foundation. The shadow of the golden elixir was dormant. The black market purification beads helped Han Xiao reach his peak, and the secret of purifying the heart was passed on to the party members. The majority of the resource meeting has been taken, and the elder's kindness is in hand. In this battle, danger can be turned into a ladder. She comforted her with a warm voice. "Don't panic. Purify the battlefield, follow me." With a tap of her fingers, the silver-blue device hung in the air and rotated. Buzzing, the dragon's roar was deafening, and the blue-gold spiritual shield exploded and poured out like the Milky Way. In an instant, the blue-gold torrent surged wildly, absorbing the poisonous fog in the forest like a whale swallowing a cow, and the sour green smoke rolled back, turning into pure fairy energy that filled the entire place. The fragrance of the medicine is as strong as a sea of clouds. When Dang Yu takes a sip, the burning pain in his meridians disappears, and the wound granulations wriggle and heal. The young man's blood hole closed quickly with the naked eye. His eyes widened and his voice trembled with ecstasy. "Master Yi, immortal energy. The meridians have doubled, reaching the peak in the early stage of foundation building. The poisonous mist has backfired on the enemy." Yin Xinyuan's face turned red. His spiritual pressure surged in the middle stage of foundation building, and he laughed with his arms akimbo. Master's magical skill. Look at the enemy's green face. 5 people from Han Zhao's old army knelt down together. Their handsome faces twisted and fanatically. God! Purify 10 times, the Phelan's rotten energy is ineffective, we can fight. The face of the enemy's scarred man suddenly changed, the buzzing of the blood-red Phelan weakened, and the spiritual pressure backfired on his meridians. He coughed out black blood foam, and his liver turned pale and trembled. This pure blue and gold? The black market Chinfeng didn't mention it. Brothers withdraw. But it's too late. Yiji's eyes were as bright as lightning. The shadow of the golden elixir flashed in his dantian. The spiritual pressure at the peak of foundation building was released, and the blue and gold spiritual threads shot out like thousands of arrows, piercing the mist and heading towards the enemy's head. The strong man's eyes bulged, the Phelan shattered and sparks flew everywhere. His chest was pierced, hot blood splashed out like a fountain, and the smell of rust hit his nostrils. There was a gurgling sound in his throat. Foundation building peak? Abandoned girl hiding the aura of golden elixir. Boom, the body fell to the ground, shaking up the mud, and the 9 casual cultivators backed away with weak legs, fear in their eyes. The leader can be killed instantly with one blow. This spirit shield is an immortal weapon. Gu Han looked from the high platform, his eagle eyes cracked, his pig liver face instantly turned gray, and he hit the ground with sweat dripping down. Impossible. The torrent of blue and gold purifies the whole place? The gang members are recovering from injuries, and she pointed at the late stage of foundation building? Which? Yiling screamed and threw herself on the ground, her pointed face twisted. Uncle Trash turned into a fairy? The tribe is crazy. Fat Yifu rubbed his eyes and shook his head, his greasy body shaking like chaff. The spiritual pool is stable. Gu Han borrowed the knife to cut off his arm. The clan members gasped and whispered. Yiji is invincible. One blow, the blue-golden immortal energy washes the battlefield. The abandoned daughter, the hidden immortal. The middle-aged elder Yi Kuan's face was ecstatic, and his spiritual pressure was loose. Give her all the resources, Gu Han is gone. Yi Wei covered her chest with tears, and her gray hair flew. The battlefield reversed, Yiji's party members' spiritual pressure surged. Han Zhao's sword was as bright as a dragon. 5 people from the old army joined forces under the spiritual net cover. Yan Xinyuan smiled ferociously and burned the enemy with spiritual fire. The casual cultivator screamed repeatedly. The magic weapon exploded into pieces, gold and iron screamed, and flesh and blood splashed across the ground with a wet and greasy sound. A casual cultivator was pierced by the spiritual thread, staring and murmuring. Purify, reverse the rotten meridians and build the momentum of the foundation. In less than 30 breaths, all 10 enemies were wiped out. Corpses littered the field, blood pools formed a river, and the stench was pungent. Han Xiao knelt on the ground, his handsome face was wet with sweat and worshipped. Master Yi, God of War! All the old troops have been promoted in the middle stage of foundation building, and we will always obey orders. Yin Xian rushed to his arms and said enthusiastically, Master, it's so exciting. Gu Han's face is shit-faced. The elders are kneeling and licking, and the whole clan will change the world. The forest is boiling with murderous intent. There are black shadows in the fog. The cold light of the magic weapon is shining, and the smell of blood and rust is assailed. Yiji's gang members rushed out, and Gu Han looked away and smiled sinisterly. Die! But the blue and gold spiritual light suddenly brightened. The faint shadow of the golden elixir flashed, and the night sky in Jiangqing was stormy again. The night wind suddenly calmed down, the fragrance of medicine lingered in the forest, the lights of Ye's family flickered, and the tribesmen flocked to worship. Yiji returned with his party members and whispered in her heart. Master, half of them are subdued, Gu Han is finished. Tomorrow in the black market, the sword of slaughter Qiangkang is ours. Han Xiao stood guard. Master Yi, the old spy is back. Chun Feng came to the auction in person, and the clues about the magic weapon are stable. Yiji nodded, with murderous intent lurking deep in his eyes, and was about to take stock of the spoils, spiritual stones, magic weapon remnants, when suddenly in the mist of Jiangqing in the distance, a gray-robed body appeared. The shadow ghost flashed. Chun Fengjuan's face was looming with a sinister look. The jade slip in his hand was broken, and the voice was like a voice transmitted by the wind, going straight into Yiji's ears. Fairy Yi, the black market is joining forces with Guhan? Wrong. The sword of the sky, the Lord is me. The foreign enemy in the spirit pool is just an appetizer. Tomorrow night underground, the Yi party will be bloodbathed. The murderous intention boiled up again in the fog. The gray shadow dissipated, accompanied by the buzzing omen of the magic weapon, thunder rolling in the night sky of Jiangcheng, and the crisis was coming like a tide. In front of the Yi family swaying territorial hall, the night wind stirred up the aftertaste of blood and scorched earth. The tribesmen came in like a tide, their eyes mixed with enthusiasm and lingering fear. The air was filled with the sweetness of the residual medicinal fragrance and the faint corruption of corpse odor. The 5 members of Han Zhao's old team were carrying the body of the casual cultivator. The spirit stones collided with the remains of the magic weapon, making a sharp and crisp sound of metal friction. The sweat on their handsome faces was mixed with blood. The spiritual pressure in the middle stage of foundation building was like a smoldering volcano, but their knees were shaking slightly. The fear of the unknown flashed in their eyes. Master Yi, these spirit stones are enough for the whole party to sprint to the later stage. But Chun Feng's voice transmission. It's dark tomorrow night city. He came to the bloodbath in person, and the aura of the peak foundation building was like a golden elixir. Qiang held his newly healed chest, and there was still sticky hot pain on the edge of the blood hole. His voice was as hoarse as sandpaper. The black market casual cultivator alliance is just an appetizer. Chun Feng is a hidden master. The magic weapon is buzzing and foreboding. A murderous plan has been laid underground in Jiangcheng. How can we stop it as the new guard of the Ling Qi? Yan Xinyuan's face turned pale, and the spiritual pressure in the middle stage of foundation building was running wildly in her chest. She tugged on Yiji's sleeves tightly, her knuckles turned white, and her fingernails were embedded in her palms, blood oozing out with a fishy sweet taste. Guhan Gaotai's face turned pale. He must have joined forces. But the shouts of the elders kneeling down are still ringing in their ears. Our newly established party members cannot withstand the bloodbath. The clan members gathered around and whispered like a tide, their faces twisted under the light. Yi Xianzi is fighting, but Chun Fengjin is fighting. Dan Suying? Under the black market, Yi Gang is bleeding like a river. Elder Yi Kuan's face twitched, his gray robe was blown by the wind. He knelt down, cold sweat dripped on his forehead, and the smell of wet earth rose. Fairy, you will take charge of the resource meeting tomorrow, but get out. The enemy, no matter how great the kindness is, it can't stop the hidden master. Yi Wei's gray hair was trembling, and her tears were not dry. She smelled the faint thunder in the air, and her voice was like a candle in the wind. My grandson's meridians are reborn, and the whole clan is following, but the crisis is coming like a mountain, and the beast's roar can be heard at the edge of the spiritual pool. Guhan shrank from the shadow in the distance. His suit was soaked with sweat and stuck to the liver's face. His eagle eyes were bloodshot, his fists cracked and cracked. His legs were so weak that he almost knelt down, but he laughed wildly, his voice hoarse like a poisonous snake dying. Demon girl. Blue and gold torrent magic. Gang members swallow the clan. Black market Chun Feng. Join forces to destroy the Yi party. Yi Ling's pointed face was twisted. She climbed up and rushed to his feet, scratching the ground with her fingernails. There was a harsh metal sound, and a resentful whisper was like a ghost. Uncle, the waste has turned into a fairy, and the whole family is crazy. Chun Feng has summoned me, and I have replied. Report all the profits from the spirit pool, unite with the outsiders and bloodbath. After Fat Yifu rubbed his belly and shrank, greasy sweat rolled down his eye sockets. In the blurred vision, Yiji's figure looked like a demon. Master Gu, hurry up. She can kill the late stage with one finger. We can't even use our chi training level as cannon fodder. Yiji stood still with her eyebrows lowered, pretending to be cowardly, and her aura of chi training was swaying in the night wind. The silver-blue device in her arms was slightly hot, and the ancient runes were faintly pulsing. She could smell the sultry heat mixed with the smell of sweat and blood that the tribe feared, and Chun Feng's quiet wind voice echoed in her ears. Blood washed the Yi party. A cold light lurked in the eyes, and the golden elixir shadow was as solid as a mountain in the Dantian. She soothed her gently, her voice like the spring breeze blowing in the willows but hiding murderous intent. People of the tribe, don't panic. The spirit pool is preserved, the The party members are back in their posts. Tomorrow's meeting resources will be poured into the party members. The black market turns danger into a ladder. The party members heard that the spiritual pressure stabilized slightly. Han Xiaojun nodded pale, and the 5 members of the old team knelt on the stone steps in front of the hall, smashing their knees. The muffled sound on the ground stirred up the dust. Master Yi is wise, but Chun Feng's threat is like thunder. We are in the middle stage of foundation building and approaching the late stage, and we are also frightened. The lights in the audience swayed and elongated the shadows. Black clouds filled the sky, and the fog rolled in the river city in the distance. Within a quarter of an hour, the ancient forest on the edge of the territory suddenly roared and exploded. The ground shook like an earthquake, and the mud splashed with wet and greasy smell. Dozens of spirit beasts with red eyes like blood lamps jumped out of the fog. The ruins of Jiangcheng revived and mutated. In the middle stage of foundation building, the spirit wolves had their hair standing on end like steel needles. Their saliva dripped and corroded the blue stone, and the smell was like a rotting corpse. The tribesmen screamed and scattered. The lights fell and sparks flew everywhere, and the smell of burnt wood was pungent. Spirit beasts are sieging. Are Chun Feng driving? The new guard of the spirit pool is coming. Elder Yi Kuan's face was ashen, and the gray-robed hunter retreated. His spiritual pressure was loose and almost collapsed. Fairy, retreat from the palace. These wolves' poisonous claws specialize in gnawing at the meridians, and the whole clan at the level of qi training. Flesh and blood flew everywhere. Yin Xian's round face twisted, and her spiritual pressure exploded in the middle of foundation building. However, she was hit by the leader's claw on the shoulder, and the blood sprayed hot and sticky. She retreated with a groan and screamed in pain. Master! The claws are poisonous to the bone, and the meridians are burned to death. Han Zhao's sword spit out light like a dragon. The peak of the middle stage of foundation building was approaching the later stage. The head of a wolf exploded after killing a wolf, and the brain splashed to the nostrils. 5 people from the old team joined forces with the spirit net, but they were torn apart by the wolves. The green poisonous smoke sprayed out, and the soreness of the burning skin made Ah Qiang wail. Brother Han, the claw shadow is 10 times faster, and the spirit net is broken by 30%. Master Yi, Gu Hanin smiled and looked away. It must be the revenge of the black market beast. Gu Han's smile deepened in the shadow, his suit bulged, and his eagle eyes flashed wildly. Shun Fengyu, the spirit beast is appetizing. The foreign alliance forces are approaching, and I should be skinned. Yi Ling screamed in agreement, and Fat Yi Fu's legs were weak and the smell of urine filled the air. Yes. Hundreds of wolves, destroy the party members. Yi Ji's eyes flashed slightly. The silver-blue device was suspended in the air. The blue-gold spirit shield was about to open but was suppressed, pretending to be timid and taking 3 steps back, but actually taking stock. The red elixir meridians are of high quality and the spiritual root is stable. The golden elixir is dormant. This beast tide is just a test. The family's heart is suppressed on the eve of the black market. She whispered to the henchman. Purify the heart. Follow me and retreat deep into the forest. Hearing the words, the henchman gritted his teeth. His meridians moved slightly, and he absorbed the remaining immortal energy in the mist. The pain eased slightly, but the wolves approached, and the wind of claws roared like a knife slicing the face, and there was a constant wet sound of tearing flesh and blood. The young man from the old tribe was knocked down. Blood gushed out from his shoulder, and hot blood splashed onto Yan Xinyuan's face. Her legs went weak and she screamed, Shaoli! The poison has penetrated into the heart, and she is on the verge of collapse in the middle of foundation building. Despair filled the whole clan. The black clouds were so heavy that they could not breathe, and the thunder rolled like the wrath of the sky. Just when the red eyes of the wolf pack were locked on Yiji, the leader of the giant wolf exploded with spiritual pressure in the late stage of foundation building, and the huge claws smashed down, spider webs cracked on the ground, gravels flew and pungent dust flew, and the party members retreated in danger. Suddenly, the jade slips buzzed in the ears again, and Chun Feng's voice came straight into his mind like a ghost, but it became feminine and seductive. Fairy Yi, the spirit beast, is testing the ears. The abandoned girl hides the golden elixir, and the blue and gold torrent shakes the black market.
Invincible, né alliance.
According to the jade slip map, the ruins of Jiangcheng contain the prototype of the glorious slaughter Qiankang. which purifies the spiritual energy 100 times. Take it in front of the black market tomorrow night, and join hands to destroy Guhan's family. Go quickly, 3 people in the team deep in the purple lightning pool. The jade slip phantom appears in the hand, the ancient map unfolds, and the route of the ruins is clear, accompanied by the ominous buzz of the magic weapon, and the fragrance of the medicine is faint. A cold light flashed in Yiji's eyes. Smelling murderous intent in the turning point, Chun Feng's sinister and handsome face appeared in his mind, claiming to be an ally? In the black market there must be fraud. But Tu Qiankang's prototype is a powerful weapon that defies the heavens and is worth a try. She tapped her fingers lightly, the silver-blue device hummed, and the blue-gold silk threads shot quietly into the forest, piercing the mist and swallowing the poisonous mist of the wolves. The sour green smoke rolled back. The gangster took a breath and his meridians expanded, and the burning pain in the wolf's claws disappeared. Yin Xian's round eyes widened, and her voice trembled with ecstasy and fear. Master, the spiritual silk purifies the beast's poison? The wolves turned green and retreated. Han Zhao's old men all knelt down, their handsome faces twisted in awe. Magical skill. The giant wolf's legs are weak in the late stage of foundation establishment, and we are at the peak of the middle stage of recovery. The wolves retreated wailing, their red eyes flashing with fear, and they disappeared in the fog, leaving paw prints and scorch marks that pungent the nose. Yiji lowered her head and retracted the device, with the blue-gold remaining light dimly visible. She pretended to smile timidly. The clan members are fine and the spirit pool is safe. In fact, her reputation was at its peak. Neutral Elder Yi Kuan and Yi Wei led the 5 elders to kneel down together. Fairy Yi, you will lead the resources meeting and Gu Han will abdicate. Half of the clan members turned to him. Their eyes were as fanatical as those of believers. Gu Han's legs weakened and he backed away, his voice hoarse and trembling. You? The gangsters are swallowing the tribe's sorcery. But no one paid attention. Yiling got up and whispered bitterly. Black Market Chunfeng, save uncle. Late at night, Yiji quietly summoned the team. Yin Xian, Han Xiao, and a Chang, and the gang members escorted them and dispersed. Her eyes were deep and murderous was lurking. Treasure hunt in ruins, black market striker. Chun Feng is a fraud, a must. The team sneaked into the mist of Jiangcheng. The ruins of high-rise buildings were like a ghost town. The steel bars were twisted and pungent and rusty. The aura-polluted black mist was rolling like ink, and the smell was burning like sulfuric acid. The map guided us deeper, and suddenly underground thunder exploded, purple lightning thunder pools exploded. Thousands of electric arcs danced like silver snakes. The roar was deafening, and the heat wave hit the face and the smell filled the air. The guardian spirit beast. Thunder Dragon has completed its foundation building. Its scales flash with lightning, its huge mouth roars and spits out thunder balls. The air buzzes and twists, and the steel beams melt and drip with metal juice. Yin Xinyuan's face turned pale. In the middle stage of foundation building, her spiritual pressure was crushed, and her meridians were tingling like needles. She pulled Han Xiao back, her voice trembling and desperate. Master! The Thunder Dragon has become great, and the arc can break the spirit shield 10 times. Our team, I can't withstand a blow. Han Xiaojuan's face was ashen, and the sword light was blown to pieces by the thunderball. Black smoke rose from the tiger's mouth and he screamed in pain. Master Yi Chunfeng's trap. The breath of the dragon pollutes the spiritual energy. Take a breath and explode the dantian. Break. Aqiang has vomited black blood. Young Aqiang covered his chest and coughed, blood foam sizzling with thunder arcs, his eyes filled with fear. The meridians at the midterm peak are half broken. Retreat. Brilliant massacre? Death. The walls of the ruins burst into pieces like rain, and the figures of the 3 people were swaying in the light of lightning. The ancient cauldron in the center of the thunder pool was floating, and the prototype of the magic weapon was faintly glowing. Wind and thunder roared, the ground cracked into the abyss, and the black mist spewed into the nostrils. Yiji pretended to be timid and almost got caught. The silver-blue device buzzed loudly, the blue-gold torrent surged wildly and swallowed the thunder mist. The purple electricity rolled back into pure fairy energy, and the medicinal fragrance was so strong that it reached the sky. But the dragon roared, thunder scales exploded under the net cover of thousands of arrows. The blue-gold spirit shield shuddered, cracks spread, Her dantian golden elixir flashed, and the foundation building peak spiritual pressure was released for a moment. The party members' eyes widened and trembled. Master, the golden elixir breath? The cover is holding up. The thunder dragon's red eyes bulged, the scales burned back, and the smell of roasted meat filled the air. Yenexan knelt on his knees with weak legs, his round face distorted and frightened. Master purified the thunder pool, and the dragon was 30% dead. We sucked in the immortal energy, and the meridian surged to the edge. Han Xiaocheng coughed up blood and his spiritual pressure loosened, and he healed quickly. His eyes were filled with awe as if he were seeing a god. God of war. Chun Feng didn't expect it. The prototype is close. The dragon's tail swept again and boom, thousands of arrows of blue and gold spiritual threads were fired, piercing the scales and piercing the heart. A fountain of hot blood and thunder juice splashed out. The smell of rust and electricity hit the nostrils. The giant beast stared and fell into the pool, shaking the waves and splashing all three of them with slime. Yiji stretched out her hand to explore the cauldron, and saw a huge golden light. She took the prototype of the brilliant slaughter of the sky fragments of the ancient sword, with runes pulsing and purifying spiritual energy buzzing 100 times, and the sword's intention was like murderous intent pouring from the sky. She put it away in a low-key manner and pretended to smile. Succeeded, come back. The team was seriously injured, but the spiritual pressure surged, and she said with trembling words, Master is happy, but Chun Feng knows that he will go crazy.
Guam Han's Coalition.
Han Xiao came forward to protect him. His handsome face was wet with sweat. At the exit of the ruins, the remnants of the spirit beasts are roaring close. The tribesmen gasped and whispered, Fairy Yi rebel again. Chun Feng's message? Ruins and ruins massacre Qiankang. The middle-aged elder Yi Kuan's face turned from ecstasy to worry, and the sweat on his forehead was still dry. Fairy, the map is real? The foreign alliance. Gu Han looked far away. Pig Liver's face turned grayer. Blood dripped from his fists, and the jade slips broke into pieces in the dark, whispering to the outside world. The Su family and the Lin family are building a great foundation, and the coalition forces are suppressing the border. I will open the spiritual pool gate and destroy the demon girl's followers. Yiling got up with resentment. Uncle, are you trying to win over Chun Feng? Kill. The mist was as sticky as ink, and the pungent rusty smell of the remnants of steel bars on the way back from the ruins penetrated the nostrils. The three figures of Yiji's team were galloping like ghosts, and the scorched earth was crunched by their footsteps. In the distance, the flames of the Yi family's territory were soaring into the sky, reflecting half of the night sky. Screams and the wails of broken metal intertwined into a world-destroying movement. The air was filled with a sweet heat wave of burnt hair and blood. Yen Xinyuan's face was twisted, and the spiritual pressure at the edge of the foundation building was turbulent. She bit her lip tightly and blood oozed out. The fishy sweetness spread in her mouth, and her voice trembled like a leaf in the wind. Master! The sea of fire swallows the spirit pool. The Sulan coalition has completed 100 foundations, and the spiritual pressure of the ancestors of the Jindan is like a mountain. Our party members are newly established, flesh and blood cannon fodder. Han Xiaojuan's face was ashen, and the hilt of the sword creaked in his bones. The surge of spiritual pressure in the thunder pool reached the late stage, but he was frightened. The meat jumped, the tiger's mouth was burnt, and the pain was like needle pricks. Master Yi Guhan opened the door with a ferocious smile on his pig liver face. All the spoils of the spirit pool were sacrificed, the foreign cavalry roared, and the clansmen knelt down to be slaughtered. Aqiang's old troops were guarding the outside, and they could hear the wet sound of severed limbs. The young Aqiang coughed up thunder and blood foam. The arc of lightning was still beating in his chest, and fear surged in his eyes. The peak of the midterm is useless, the shadow of the coalition's golden elixir is crushing, and the Yi family is dead. The cold light in Yiji's eyes was like the blade of a dormant sword, and the fragment of the ancient sword in his arms, the prototype of the brilliant slaughter of the sky hummed and hummed, the golden runes pulsed like a heartbeat, the murderous intention of the sword that purified the spiritual energy 100 times pierced the dantian, and the shadow of the golden elixir was as stable as a rock. She pretended to be cowardly and practiced with a layer of aura swaying, and her mind was racing with games. Chun Fengyu's jade slip lured the alliance to ruins, suspected to be a trap set up by the black market master, and Tu Qiankang's prototype was too easy to acquire, so there must be a backup plan. Gu Han should offer the city inside. Su Lin's coalition forces were suppressing the border, the foundation of the new party was not stable, and 1,000 arrows would pierce the heart as soon as the golden elixir was revealed, so keeping a low profile was the best strategy. But Ling Qi fell, the clan collapsed, and the unstable defense line led to no way out in the black market. Alliance with Chun Feng? Kill Gu with a borrowed sword, purify the formation and suppress the vanguard, refine the prototype and recognize the master and reverse it? The danger is like walking on thin ice. Chun Feng's golden elixir is at its peak. He calls himself the sword god and joins forces to destroy his wife's family or attack the Yi party. Her fingers trembled slightly as she touched the silver-blue device. The ancient runes were hot and flowed through her meridians. The high-grade spiritual roots absorbed the remaining immortal energy in the mist. The spiritual pressure at the peak of foundation building was about to explode. She sneered in her heart. The powerful ants Su Lin and Gu Han are no more than dust. Once the torrent of purification comes out, I am the only one in the sky and on the earth. Return to the edge of the territory quickly, don't go into the sea of fire. Yiji whispered like a knife hidden in the spring breeze. After hearing this, the team's spiritual pressure stabilized slightly, and they sneaked around in the fog. On the outskirts of the territory, the charred stumps of the ancient forest were scattered, and the smell of soil and blood filled the nostrils. The Su family's iron armor foundation was like a pack of wolves rushing for food. The spiritual shield buzzed against the casual cultivator of the Yi party. The bones cracked and made a wet sound, and the broken arm spurted blood and hot splashed on the bluestone, making a hissing and corroding sound. The golden elixir ancestor of the Lin family hung high in the sky, hunting in gray robes, with spiritual pressure pressing down like a mountain. The clan members fell to the ground with cold sweat on their foreheads, and the greasy earthy smell rose up on the ground. Master Su, please forgive me. Patriarch Gu opened the spiritual pool. We are not guilty. The Su Tai man laughed, and the foundation-building spiritual spear breathed fire, smashing the chests of the party members, and the smell of burnt internal organs filled the air. His pigloined face was twisted and fanatically. The blue-gold witchcraft of the Leaf Party Witch? Master Gu presented a picture, and the spirit pool conquered my Su family. The ancestor of Jindan came in person to slaughter all the abandoned female members. The female cultivator of the Lin family laughed sharply, and the spirit whip cracked the air and roared, entangled Elder Yi Kuan's gray robe, and the bleeding marks were hot and painful. Gu Han Zhugan's face was ashen and flashing madly. His suit was soaked with sweat and his body was sticky. His eagle eyes were bloodshot. The door of the spiritual pool opened on the high platform, and the spiritual stones jingled and poured out in the firelight. His voice was hoarse like a poisonous snake. Su Lin, everyone, the party is eradicated. The demon girl is in ruins, and the gang members are bloodbathed. I, Gu Han, the new clan leader, will donate my resources. Yi Ling climbed onto the platform with a twisted face. Her nails scratched the metal, and she yelled viciously. Uncle, you are wise. Thousands of gangsters. Fat Yifu shrank back, his legs weak with the smell of urine. Master Gu, destroy it quickly. The blue and gold torrent has reappeared. We are the cannon fodder for Qi training. The tribesman whispered in despair. Yi fairy god fights the wolf dragon. The coalition's golden core is overwhelming. Ling Qi is dead, and the party members are scattered. Yan Xinyuan's eyes widened, and his knuckles turned white as he pulled Yiji's sleeves. Master, Gugo presented the picture. Su Lin's cavalry has entered the center, and the three of us in the team cannot hold on. The lake in Yiji's heart rippled slightly, and the psychological balance tilted. Gu Han's inner ghost has not been eliminated, and the defense line is like paper. Chun Feng doubts that the alliance is worth borrowing. The authenticity of the jade slip map has been proven. The prototype of Tu Qiankang is purified 100 times, and it may be possible to join forces to form an array. She tapped the jade slip in her arms with her fingers, and her spiritual consciousness pierced into the buzzing sound. Chun Feng's sinister and handsome face appeared, and the gray-robed hunter's voice was like a ghost. Fairy Yi, get the prototype of the quick connection. On the eve of the black market, the Su Lin Gu coalition forces bloodbathed the Yi party. I, Chun Feng, personally went to the edge to build the peak spiritual network. Help us. We are not enemies but allies. We have deployed the purification array together to destroy the vanguard and stabilize the spirit pool. I will take the head of Gu Go. Yiji's eyes flashed with murderous intent, and he snorted in his heart. The truth is hidden in the deceit, and the black market lord is very ambitious, and will surely backfire after the defense line is stabilized. But there is no harm in annihilating the clan in front of us. She pretended to be timid and responded in low voice. Friend Daoist-chan, I can see the real seal on the black market. Pioneer Psycat, please lend me a helping hand. The jade slip cracked with a crisp sound. Chun Feng's gray shadow dissipated, and spiritual pressure surged like a tide in the distant fog. Yin Xian Han Xiao. Follow me to set up a purification array. Yiji's voice fell, the silver and blue device was suspended in the air. Ancient runes exploded into a torrent of blue and gold. Whales swallowed the polluted black mist, and transformed into pure immortal energy that filled 100 feet in radius. Yin Xinyuan's face turned pale and turned ecstatic. In the late stage of foundation building, her spiritual pressure surged for a moment. She opened her eyes wide and trembled. Master, the foundation of the formation is complete. Immortal energy enters the body, and Su Tealing's spear fire is weakened by 30%. Han Xiao spat out sword light again, and the tiger's mouth was full of pain. Healing approaching the peak of the later stage, his handsome face was twisted in awe. God array! Chun Feng's spiritual net descends from the sky, and the gray shadow is like a net covering Psycats. The mist exploded and Chun Feng's gray robe appeared, crushing the spiritual pressure of the peak foundation building, and his handsome face curled his lips sinisterly. Holding the spiritual net in his hand like thousands of silver threads, wrapped around the Psycat armor, the gun roared but was counterattacked by the purifying fairy energy. The gun body melted and dripped metal juice. His pig-waisted face bulged with fear. Demon purification array? Master Chun Hei, Mr. Gu Suling, you are betraying me. Chun Feng smiled ferociously, the spirit net shrank and his bones cracked. Su Tai spurted blood and fell to the ground. The hot blood splashed on the ground and hit his nose. Gu Go Nang I Chun Feng, dominate Zhang City in the black market. Su Lin is an ant. More than 10 members of the Su family's Pioneer Foundation building team rushed into the formation with red eyes. The sea of fire from the spiritual spear spurted out, and the roaring and ear-splitting heat waves hit their faces. However, they trembled when they hit the blue-gold spiritual shield. The cracks did not appear but were corroded by the immortal energy. Their skin was blistered and filled with sour and putrid odors. Their knees were weak. Wailed. Take a gulp of the immortal energy in the formation and explode the meridians. Ancestor of the golden pill, press quickly. The female cultivator of the Lin family whizzed and whipped her hood, but it was rolled back by the blue-gold spiritual thread. The whip body was scorched and broken. She screamed and backed away, her knuckles turned white and trembled. Chun Feng rebelled against the alliance? The Yi Yan purifies the torrent, and the spiritual pressure of the foundation is loosened. Seeing this, the party members burst out with spiritual pressure, and the 5 members of Hanzhou's Aqiang rushed together, using their sword nets and Chun Feng's gray nets to kill the 3 vanguards. Their heads exploded and their brains splashed on the ground, making the tribesmen gasp. Angry whispers exploded. Fairy Yi joins the black market. Su Tai kneels down, the spiritual pool is stable. Elder Yi Kuan in gray robe climbed up, his middle-aged face turned ecstatic. Fairy is resourceful, Chun Feng is at the peak of his gray shadow, and his party members are soaring. The kindness is huge. Gu Han's pig liver face turned pale instantly, and his eagle eyes were bloodshot. He squeezed blood with his fists and roared. Chun Feng is back to his bones. Ancestor of Su Lin Jin Dan. Quickly enter the center to slay the demon girl. Yi Ling twisted her pointed face and threw herself to the ground. Her fingernails were broken and her bloodshot threads were stretched. Uncle, the formation cannot be broken. The gang members counterattacked. But a small victory was achieved. The purification formation stabilized the outer perimeter. The fire was slightly subdued. The gang members reunited at the edge of the spiritual pool, absorbed the immortal energy, recovered from their injuries, and practiced their qi straight to the edge of the foundation. Yiji's mind was slightly calm, and the psychological game continued. Chun Feng's true intention of helping out? The prediction of a bloodbath in the black market may be for the oppressor party, so keep a low profile and practice the prototype to maintain the initiative. Her figure was hidden in the center of the formation, and she whispered to Han Xiao, Dharma protector, I will refine the sword. The fragments of the ancient sword floated in her arms, and the golden light radiated, and the runes pulsed like dragons. The purifying spiritual energy buzzed 100 times straight into the meridians. The high-grade spiritual roots greedily devoured it. The remaining power of the red elixir was activated, and the virtual shadow of the golden elixir suddenly expanded. At the moment of refining, the murderous intent of the sword rushed into his head like a thunderstorm. Yiji pretended to be timid and trembled, but in fact the heat in his dantian surged wildly. The peak of the foundation building was close to the prototype of the golden elixir. The sword body buzzed as it recognized its master, and the ancient runes burned into the palm of his hand as hot as a soldering iron. She flicked her fingers, and the sword fragments turned into golden light and disappeared into her sleeves. The purified sword intention was dormant and ready to be used. Yan Xinyuan's eyes were as wide as copper bells, his legs were weak and he knelt down. His voice was trembling and he was frightened. Master! The sound of the sword penetrated into the soul. The meridian surged to the late stage, and I saw a flash of golden elixir brilliance. Han Xiaojuan's face turned pale and sweat rolled down. The soul is flying. Chen Feng's gray-robed eyes shrank, his handsome face turned greedy, and he whispered like a ghost. Fairy! Shinden's shadow. In front of the black market, we will destroy Gugo together. The lights illuminated their faces and they worshipped. The fairy is refining the sword, and the divine light is rising into the sky. The coalition forces retreated 3 feet, and the spirit pool was regained. In the mist on the way home, flames were blazing into the sky in the distance in the direction of the Yi family, and the clan members were screaming. The Su family and the Lin family's coalition forces are approaching. Hundreds of foundations are completed, and the golden elixir ancestor's spirit is overwhelming the city. Gu Han opened the door and responded, and the spirit pool fell. Black clouds pressed down, thunder rumbled. The crisis of genocide was swallowed up like a tide. Yiji's eyes exploded with cold light, and the prototype of Tu Qiankang was buzzing and ready to go. The iron hooves roared like a thunderous beast galloping. Gu Han's pig liver face twisted into a ghostly smile. The suit's bulging spiritual pressure loosened like the wind and the remaining clouds. He led the 20 elite leaf party traders in the middle stage of foundation construction, and the iron cavalry rushed straight into the heart of the formation. The spiritual gunfire net spit out a red heat wave in the face, the air twisted and hissed, and the smell of burnt earth mixed with the pungent sulfur penetrated into the heart. The core masters of the Sulin coalition then pressed forward. The phantom of the Jindan ancestor of the Lin family swelled like a toppling mountain, and the gray mist spiritual pressure crushed the whole place. The knees of the followers of the casual cultivator cracked, cold sweat splashed on the ground like rain, and the earth was wet and wet. The broken limbs were swept by the fire net and the blood mist exploded. The sweet smell of burnt internal organs filled the night sky. The true form of the ancestor of the Su family's golden elixir finally appeared, with hunting blood in his red robe soaring into the sky. His old face had a hooked nose and a sinister bird of prey. The golden light in his dantian soared like the sun falling to the ground. His spiritual pressure was like a tsunami engulfing the edge of the purification array. The blue-gold spiritual shield trembled and cracked spider webs spread. The humming and mourning was deafening. The demon girl of the Yi family. Gu Daoyu is offering sacrifices to the spirit pool. Su Lin joins forces to kill all the gangsters, and the traitor Chun Feng in the black market. You all are lying on your knees. Ancestor Lin Jindan echoed with a ferocious smile, and the sleeves of his gray robe turned into thousands of silver snakes, tearing through the mist and drawing towards the center of the array. The whip shadows were corroding and stinking directly into the meridians. Yan Xinyuan's face was as white as paper, and her spiritual pressure was at its peak in the late stage of foundation building. Her round eyes turned white and her knuckles turned white, and she pulled Yiji's sleeves. Her voice trembled like a candle in the wind. Master! The 2 ancestors of the golden elixir are pressing forward. Gu Han's fire network burned through the spirit shield, and the heads of the 3 brothers from Ah Qiang's old army burst, and my face was hot with plasma. Han Xiaojuan's face was ashen as the sword hilt cracked, and the old wound in the tiger's mouth was reopened and blood rolled down. His spiritual pressure was almost at its peak, but his knees were half an inch weak. Fear surged in his eyes. Master Yi, the spiritual pressure of Sulin's golden elixir is like a mountain collapse, and Chun Feng's gray net can't stop it. Gu Laogo personally led the traders, and the party members collapsed. Chun, the handsome face of the hunter in maple gray robe, changed slightly, and he danced wildly with the silver threads of the spiritual net, but was shocked by the virtual shadow of the golden elixir. Fresh blood and sweetness came to his mouth. He roared and the gray shadow retreated. Fairy, both golden elixirs are pressing together, and the black market dominates the dream. This situation is deep. Elder Yi Kuan's gray robe was scorched black and crawled to the ground, with a middle-aged face. His face was twitching and his knees were wet with blood. Fairy, I'm so kind. Gugo offered the golden elixir to the city to slaughter the clan, and we are practicing chi cannon fodder. The clan members exploded in desperate screams, and the firelight illuminated their faces, twisting and panicking. The reunion of the spirit pool is useless. The demon girl's purification array is broken, and the Yi party is dead. Lord Su, spare your life. Yi Ling's pointed face twisted in ecstasy and threw herself on the high platform. She scratched the stone with her fingernails and made a sharp metal sound. She screamed with hatred. Uncle, you are mighty. The demon girl's blue and gold flood has been wiped out, and the gang members are bloody and fleshy, skinned by 1,000 cuts. Fat Yifu's greasy face is filled with sweat. His legs are soft and the smell of urine is permeating. He shrinks back and trembles in agreement. Master Gu has usurped the throne. Sulin Jindan is crushing. We are determined to follow. Gu Hanying bloodshot eyes burst out. Fists pinched and blood dripped, and the spirit gun roared from the high platform and pointed directly at the center of the formation. The demon girl appears. Dedicate resources to Sulin. I am the new clan leader Gu Han. And the party members kneel down to be slaughtered. The whole place was filled with despair. The blue and gold torrent of the purification array trembled and dimmed. The scent of fairy medicine was swallowed up by the bloody heat wave. The party members fell to the ground and wailed. The meridians were cut off, and the smell of electric burns hit their nostrils, and the clan was on the verge of annihilation. Han Xiaojuan's face suddenly turned from green to red, and the heart of the sword resonated like thunder. He suddenly turned around and spat out sword light, slashing straight at Gu Han's traitor cavalry. Blood mist sprayed from the tiger's mouth, but he laughed like a wolf. Old Gu, the dog should sacrifice the city inside. Master Ye's divine formation purifies the immortal energy. I, Han Xiao, betray Gu Ye's party. Sword destroy the traitors. The sword net joined Chun Feng's gray net, cutting off the 5 traitors' armored heads, exploding their brains and splattering the wet ground. The 5 members of his old army, Aqiang, roared with thunder and their blood boiled. They rushed forward at the peak of the foundation building stage, and the spirit spears backfired on Gu Jingrui's chest, burning his internal organs, and spewing out sweet heat waves. Brother Han, betray.
Yeshikian formation. Destroy Gugu.
Yin Xinyuan's eyes flashed wildly, and the spiritual pressure reached its peak again in front of Yi. Master Senior Brother Han is here to help. But the spiritual pressure of the 2 ancestors of Jindan was like a mountain, and Su Jindan slapped the array cover and it shattered. The wave swept Han Xiao and flew 10 feet away. He vomited blood on the ground and his bones cracked. His handsome face was pale and sweat was pouring down from his face. Master Yi couldn't hold on anymore. The golden elixir crushed. Chun Feng's gray shadow retreated in embarrassment, his sinister eyes flickering from greed to fear. Where is Fairy Ye's trump card? On the eve of the black market, everything will be destroyed. The cold light in Yiji's eyes was dormant like a sword ready to strike, and the prototype of Tu Qiankang in her arms hummed and pulsated with golden light. She pretended to be timid and practiced qi, and her figure trembled slightly, but in fact, the shadow of the golden elixir in her dantian was as stable as a rock, and her high-grade spiritual roots greedily swallowed and purified the remaining immortal energy, approaching the prototype of the golden elixir. Gu Han's fire net hit her face with scorching heat, and Su Lin's golden pill's spiritual pressure locked her throat and suffocated her. She sneered in her heart. An ant and a powerful person, Su Lin and Gu Han are no more than dust. The fragments of the ancient sword floated up from the sleeve with a flick of the finger, and the ancient runes exploded into the sky with golden light. The purifying sword intent was swallowed up 100 times, and the polluted spiritual energy was swallowed up, turning into a torrent of pure white fairy light, and pouring out for thousands of feet. Brilliant slaughter the sky bloom. Yiji whispered like an edict from heaven. The sword body soared hundreds of feet in golden light like the bursting sun. The runes pulsed like a dragon's roar shaking the soul. The blue and gold purifying torrent merged with the sword light, turning into thousands of golden threads to pierce the mist, hissing and corroding the black mist that polluted the whole place. The medicinal fragrance and fairy aura was as strong as a tsunami backfired on the coalition forces. The whole place was still for a moment. Su Jindan's ancestor, the red-robed hunter, had a pale face with bulging fear. His aquiline nose twitched and his spiritual pressure loosened. The shadow of the golden elixir was corroded by golden threads and hissed. His meridians burned like fire and his heart was filled with pain. Dharma? The brilliance of the magical weapon? The purification sword. The intention went straight into Dan Tian, the prototype of the ancient slaying sky. Impossible. How can the foundation-building demon girl recognize the master? He roared with blood and sprayed the shield to protect his body, but was pierced by the golden light in the chest. The fragments of the golden elixir exploded in the dantian and splashed with a tinkling sound, and the hot blood was as sweet as a spring. His knees fell to the ground and he wailed hoarsely. Spare! Fairy, spare your life! The gray robe of Lin Jindan's ancestor was burned, and the silver snake of the spirit whip bit him back. His skin blistered and the sour and putrid smell filled the air. He screamed and backed away, his gray face twisted and his knuckles turned white. The peak of Jindan is unstoppable. Use! The sword light purifies the meridians and reshapes them, and the spiritual roots wither. Brother Su is dead, and Yi Yanv is the only one in heaven and earth. The golden thread wrapped around his neck and shrank, his bones shattered, his brain exploded, and blood filled the sky, and his gray robe fell to the ground with a wet and putrid smell. Gu Han's pig liver face turned as yellow as dirt in an instant, and his eagle eyes were round and bloodshot. The fire net of his spiritual gun spit out heat waves and hit the sword light, but the golden light backfired and melted the gun body. The metal juice dripped and made a sizzling sound. The meridians in his arms were severed and the pain was like thousands of needles. Demon! Tu Qianqing recognized the master? Gu Han sacrificed his daughter's golden elixir sword to usurp the throne. Ah! Yiji waved her sleeves and the fragments of the sword turned into a flash of golden light, slashing Gu Han's right arm. The blood light exploded and the arm flew 10 feet away and hit the ground, convulsing. The flesh was blurred and hot blood sprayed on Yiling's pointed face. She screamed and threw herself on the ground, her fingernails were broken and her bloodshot threads were stretched. Uncle's arm is broken. The magic weapon is glorious and it kills the golden elixir, we ants. Fat Yifu's greasy face collapsed and urine and blood flowed out, and his legs were weak and he knelt down shaking like a sieve. Master Gu is dead. Fairy Ye's divine sword, skinned with 1,000 swords, turned into kneeling and licking. Gu Han covered his broken arm and rolled to the ground, wailing, his pig liver face distorted and desperate. Fairy, spare your life. You must have made a mistake. I have no choice but to offer Su Lin in the spiritual pool. I will retreat as the new patriarch. Yin Xinyuan's eyes were as wide as copper bells, her legs were weak and she knelt on her face with ecstasy and tears rolling down her face. Her peak spiritual pressure in the late stage of foundation building had increased again, approaching the great achievement, and her voice was trembling with enthusiasm. Master's divine sword bloomed. The golden elixir slayed the enemy's head. Gugo's arm was chopped off and he knelt down. The celestial energy in the meridians was reborn. I see the way of heaven. Han Xiaojuan's face turned pale. Turning red, the tiger's mouth healed and the sword's heart buzzed with resonance. He got up and knelt down to worship and the sweat evaporated. Master Yi is invincible. The prototype of Tu Qianqing purified the entire audience. Su Lin's golden elixir soul flew away, and all the old men bowed together. Chun Feng's gray-robed hunting bird's eyes shrank like needles, his handsome face flashed with surprise, then changed to greed and fear, and he whispered ghostly, Yi Xianzi's golden elixir embryonic magic weapon is brilliant. The black market dominates in transfers, and the black market conspires on the eve of the black market. The 5 people from Qiang's old team knelt down with blood boiling. The middle stage of foundation building went straight to the later stage, their eyes burning with admiration. Master Ye's power. Kill the golden elixir and cut off Gu Go. Brother Han's old team will swear forever. Elder Yikuan was gray. The robed lieutenant stood up, his middle-aged face trembling with ecstasy. Fairy's wisdom and magic weapon, the kindness is overwhelming. The whole clan will follow, and the Yi party will change the sky. The tribesmen gathered around the formation to worship, and the firelight illuminated their faces and twisted their faces in worship and screamed, Fairy Yi slaughters the sky. The golden elixir kneels down. The spiritual pool is forever solid. The family surrenders. The afterglow of the purifying sword light swept across the entire site. The torrent of blue and gold swallowed up the remaining pollution. The scent of immortal energy and medicinal medicine filled the air. The party members recovered from their injuries and the practice of energy rushed to the edge of the foundation, and the fire in the spiritual pool was extinguished to regain the center. The remaining foundation building of the Sulin coalition collapsed with red eyes, and fell to the ground with weak knees and loose spiritual pressure, wailing. The magic weapon is purifying and invincible. The ancestor of Jindan is dead, retreat. The iron cavalry collapsed and roared away. The black clouds dispersed and the thunder stopped, and the stars in the night sky shone, reflecting Yiji's figure like a god. Yiling's face turned pale and she pounced on Gu Han's broken arm. She turned from resentment to begging for mercy. Fairy, have mercy on me. I will obey my orders from now on. The whole audience knelt down like a tide, displaying her invincible attitude. I am the only one in the world. But the hook suddenly appeared. Gu Han from the high platform laughed crazily. His suit bulged and his spiritual pressure loosened. He personally led the elite leaf party traders in the middle of the 20th foundation building. The iron hooves roared into the center of the formation, and the fire net of the spiritual spear spit out heat waves. The demon woman show up, with Su Lin Jindan behind. I, Gu Han, usurped the throne and skinned him with 1,000 swords. Yiling screamed in agreement. Fat Yifu pounced on him with a greasy face. The decisive battle was about to begin. The black clouds were thundering, and the murderous intention of annihilating the clan was burning again. The night wind howled and mixed with the aftertaste of bloody scorched earth. Starlight fell on the center of the purification array. The afterglow of the blue and gold torrent pulsed like a living creature, swallowing the remaining black mist in the surrounding area, turning into a strong scent of immortal energy and medicine. Gu Han's pig liver face was twisted into a yellowish-gray color, and the bloody fountain of his broken arm splattered on the ground. He threw himself forward on his knees, digging his knuckles into the soil and making a harsh metal sound, his voice hoarse like a ghost crying. Fairy God! Gu Han is short-sighted, and Su Lin's golden elixir is tempting. Skinning and cramping, spare the villain's life, and the whole family's resources are devoted to it. Yiling's pointed face collapsed, and her oily hair spread all over Gu Han's broken arm. Beside her, her sharp claws were broken and bloodshot, her round eyes were full of resentment and tears flowed, her legs were soft and smelly, and she was trembling and begging for mercy. Fairy! Ye Fairy Linger is blind and is seeking death with her uncle. The gang members obey orders, and the spiritual stones and magic weapons are donated, and they will live forever. Fat Yifu had a greasy face with sweat and urine, shrinking to the ground like a ball of flesh, and his fat lips trembled and agreed. Fairy's power. Gudang is dead, let's kneel and lick. Yiji was wearing a white dress, and the cold light in her eyes swept across the whole place like a sword. The golden glow of Tu Qiankang's prototype in her arms pulsed and heated her palms. She pretended to be practicing qi and trembled slightly, but in fact the golden elixir shadow was steadily swallowing the immortal energy, until it was ready to take shape. Gu Han's bloodshot eyes were about to burst when he saw her sleeves and robe fluttering, the fragments of the ancient sword buzzing and floating, the golden threads twisting his neck like a dragon, his meridians burning and the sour and putrid smell hitting his nostrils. His body twitched and screamed, spare my life. New. The patriarch abdicated, and Fairy Yi took over. With a twist of golden light, Gu Han's head tilted and his bones creaked. Blood and brain matter splashed onto Yiling's pointed face. She screamed and threw her body back, her shit-colored face trembling wildly. Uncle's soul is flying. As soon as I thought about Elder 2 we ants. All the party members gasped, their knees weakened even more. Elder Yikuan stood up in gray robes, his middle-aged face trembling with ecstasy. The fairy's broken arm is shocking. Kindness changes the world. Yin Xian's round-eyed copper bells were enthusiastic, and her peak spiritual pressure increased again in the late stage of foundation building. She pulled Yijishio's round face and burst into tears. Master Sword is tied to Guju. The gang members will be worshipped forever, and the immortal energy in the meridians will be reborn to see the way of heaven. Han Xiaojuan's face was red, his sword heart was buzzing, the tiger's mouth healed, and the blood evaporated. He knelt down and led the 5 old men a chong and their blood boiled. In the late stage of foundation building they all shouted, Master Yi is invincible. Crush the head of Gulaogo. The sword intent purifies us and other high-grade spiritual roots. Han Zhao's old men will always defend. Chan the sinister and handsome face in maple gray robes shrank, and the gray shadow trembled slightly and whispered ghostly. Fairy Yi cut off the elder's arm with a sword and hanged his head. The black market gave away and conspired to commit a bloodbath. The tribesmen worshipped the tide, and the firelight reflected on the distorted worshipping face, screaming like thunder. Fairy Yi slaughtered the Gu party. The spiritual pool forever solid. The sky has changed. But there was a sudden roar from the edge of the purification array, and the remaining enemies of Su Lin's foundation establishment Dashang Iron Cavalry counterattacked. The scarlet spirit spears and fire nets spit out heat waves to distort the air, and the sulfur and scorched earth stung the heart of the formation. The leader of the Su family's foundation establishment Dashang Cavalry roared with a ferocious smile. Golden Pill Patriarch although dead, Su Lin Baichi slaughtered the demon girl. The spiritual pool was burned, and the blood was paid on the eve of the black market. The net of fire swept over the edge of the party members, and the third chi practitioner's chest was burnt, and his internal organs were gushing out, wailing and falling to the ground. The meridians were broken and the electricity was scorching, and the blue-gold cover on the side of the array trembled and cracked, and the spider web spread, and the buzzing was deafening. Yin Xinyuan's face turned pale and then turned livid, and his spiritual pressure tugged at Yi. Master.
Sukanki counterattack.
The fire net burned through the edge, and the new members of the party were bloody and bloody. Han Zhao's sword hilt creaked, and his handsome face was filled with fear. Yong's knees were half an inch weak. Master Yi, you have led hundreds of cavalry at the end of your foundation building, and your armored spirit spears are like thunder beasts. The old army can't stop it. Chan Feng danced wildly with gray nets and silver threads, but was shocked and coughed up blood. His sinister eyes flashed with greed and turned to fear. Su Qiayu the evil dog jumped over the wall, and the dream of the black market was shattered. Yi Kuan's gray face twitched and his knees were wet with blood. Fairy. The enemy's fire net is broken, the pure spirit formation is shattered, and the whole clan is dead again. The clan members screamed in despair, and the flames were twisted in panic. Su Qi is invincible. The demon girl's cards are gone, and the magic weapon is left behind. Su Zhuanghan pointed at Yi. It was a fluke to abandon the girl to practice qi, and kill the golden pill. Yiji's lips curved coldly. Her eyes were as cold as the abyss and she scorned the dust. She squeezed the fragments of the massacred sky and spat out the golden light. The rune dragon roar shocked the soul. The blue and gold torrent merged with the sword intent, and the whale swallowed the fire net. The black mist corroded and turned into immortal energy to backfire. Pure spirit sword net expand, whispered the imperial edict. The sword body pulsated and exploded with 100 feet of golden light. Thousands of golden threads fell down like a sky net, piercing the cavalry armor with a roar and melting metal juice dripping hot to the ground. Su Zhuanghan's spiritual spear burned his arm back and burned, leaving him with a scorched stench. He screamed with bloodshot eyes. The afterglow of the magic weapon purifies the fire net? The meridians are purified by the fire net, reshaping the withered. Impossible. The golden threads pierced his chest and the dantian exploded with golden fragments. Hot bloody fountains sprayed into the sky. His knees hit the ground and twitched in despair. Su Fairy Rao. The armor of the 100 knights was shattered, The knight's head exploded, and the brains and blood mist flew into the sky. The broken limbs and remains piled up in a wet mountain, and the sulfuric heat wave turned into a tsunami of medicinal fragrance. The whole place was still, and Su's remaining enemies were wiped out. Yin Xinyuan's eyes stared at Tongling again, and he knelt on his knees with weak legs and shed tears of joy on his round face. Master's sword net expanded. Su Baiqi's ashes flew away, and the dantian of the foundation establishment exploded. Master, I am the only one in heaven and earth. Han Xiaojuan's face turned pale and red. The sword light resonated with thunder, and he knelt down sweating. Master Ye's divine net slaughters the remaining enemies. The spiritual roots of the old department have grown to the edge of the foundation building, and I will be invincible forever. Chun Feng's gray-robed hunting handsome face burst into surprise and greed, and his gray eyes turned to admiration. Fairy Ye's afterglow purifies and destroys all the cycads. A bloodbath in the black market. I, Chun Feng, protector, obey your orders. The 5 members of Qiang's old army knelt down and rushed towards Deshang in the late stage of foundation building. Their eyes were filled with fire and admiration. Master Yi is unparalleled in his sword skills. Brother Han's old army is fighting to the death. The middle-aged man named Yikuan said with a furious look on his face. Fairy, you are so wise in defeating the enemy. God, the whole clan worships you. Yiling's face was stained yellow with blood, and she threw herself at Su's corpse, trembling and begging for mercy. Fairy Tu Baiqi Linger obeyed skinned Su dog. The clan members knelt down like a sea and screamed with thunder. Jingling sword net. Su Lin will be destroyed forever, and the Yi party will dominate. Yi Zhixio waved the golden thread to restrain it. Tu Qiankang hummed and moaned that her palms were burning. Her spiritual consciousness penetrated the heaven and whispered, the trial has begun, and the black market blood sacrifice has fully awakened. Cold eyes swept over the kneeling sea. White skirt stepped on the high platform in front of the formation. Her voice was as clear as a sword. Su Lin is flying. Gu Dang is going to kill him. The Yi family has changed the sky and built the Jingling sect. Deputy Sect Master Yin Xian, Protector Han Xiao and Chun Feng, Elder Yi Kuan and Yi Wei, strengthen the deacon of the old department. The whole family's fortune is purified, and the power of the city is greatly expanded. On the eve of the black market, Yin Xian kneels down enthusiastically, and the spiritual pressure is first revealed. Master Jingling Zhongli, Yin Xian, I will help you to the death. Han Xiao kowtowed with swords. Master Yi protects the sect. Chun Feng's gray figure leaned over and whispered. The black market clues are all available. The protector is collaborating. Yi Kuan's gray robe knocked on the ground. Elder, please obey. Clan practice, expand the city. The tribesmen roared like thunder. The blue and gold torrent expanded thousands of feet. The immortal energy swallowed up the dantian of the party members, and they made breakthroughs one after another. Late at night at dawn, the flag of the Jingling sect was raised. The ancient runes were pulsing with golden light, and the gang members came into battle. Han Xiao led the old army's sword light and destroyed the cave where Su Lin's remaining gang was hiding. The blood mist fountain splashed with brains and the stone was wet, and Qiang shouted. Sect master the power of the sword net. Bloodbath in Sugo cave. Chun Feng laid the gray net on the edge of the city, destroyed the remains of the Lin family's fire net, and smiled sinisterly. The net spirit is expanding, and Yi Xianzi dominates. The gray-haired Yi Wei, who has high-grade clan spiritual roots, returned to the team with tears in her eyes. Sect master save Sun En, Elder Weier will die. Yi Ling Fat Yi Fu knelt down to offer resources, and turned into a slave with a pointed face and greasy face. Sect master, please spare your life. The spiritual stone and elixir are all for the clan. High-rise buildings in the city. Immortal light flashed for the first time, and the power of the Jingling sect spread like wildfire, defeating the remaining enemies at the peak of the foundation building, and the bloody rivers of beheaded heads rushed into the street. The passers-by stared and trembled. The Jingling sect massacred the sky. Fairy Yi dominated overnight, and Su Lin was reduced to ashes. But the prototype of Tu Qiankang buzzed loudly. The golden light exploded and the runes danced wildly, and the pain in Yiji's palms roared. The trial begins. The black market awakens from the deep bloodbath. Suddenly, thunder exploded in the sky, and black clouds gathered again and burst out in a frenzy. The polluting black mist poured over the city like a tsunami, and the purification array trembled to protect the sect. The scout knelt down bloodstained and reported, his voice trembling with fear. Sect Master. The remaining 4 major families of Zhao, Qian, Sun and Li are attacking. The 3 golden elixir masters lead thousands of foundation-building iron cavalry, and the spiritual pressure landslides and the city collapses. The survival of the sect is on the line. Yin Xinyuan's eyes are ashen. Han Zhao's sword hilt was shattered. Chen Feng's face was gray and yellow, and the whole sect knelt in the sea and surged in despair. The 4 clans' golden elixir general attack. The jingling sect is shattered. Yiji's eyes were filled with ambition, and his lips sneered. The ants and powerful people are here to slaughter the sky. The dawn light pierced the lingering clouds. The blue-gold torrent at the center of the jingling sect's purification array pulsed like a heart. The scent of immortal energy and medicine was rich and assailed the nostrils. The party members crossed their knees and ran the heart-purifying formula. The joints crackled and moaned with joy. The qi training layer by layer broke through the bottleneck of the foundation building, and the spiritual pressure surged like a tide in the high-rise buildings. But the sky suddenly explodes with thunder, and a tsunami of black fog pours into the city. Pollution aura is splashed like ink, corroding steel bars of high-rise buildings creak and twist, and the sour and putrid smell mixed with sulfuric heat waves penetrates the nose. The 3 golden elixirs of the 4 clans led thousands of foundation-building iron cavalry to collapse in the landslide. The iron hooves smashed the street bricks and made a roar like an earthquake. The red spiritual spear fire network spewed out distorted air. The leader of the Zhao family's golden elixir old monster was as skinny as firewood and smiled ferociously with his eagle eyes. His gray robe hunted and fluttered, floating in the void. Pure spirit demon sect. Su Lin, Hui Finer and others were lucky. The 3 golden elixir masters joined forces to burn up the spirit pool. Yiji abandoned his daughter to practice qi, kneeling down and offering resources to spare your dog's life. The Qian family's golden elixir fat bald head trembled with fat lips. The spiritual pressure crushed the party members around the battle, and the new qi practitioner's chest collapsed, and his internal organs spewed out sweet smell. He fell to the ground wailing and his meridians were scorching with electricity. The demon girl was lucky enough to kill Su Kanki, and the 4 clans of my grandson Li and Zhao took over the city. On the eve of the black market, the clan was wiped out with a blood sacrifice. The Sun family's golden elixir brawny man roared like an iron tower and shook his eardrums. The Li family's golden elixir was a feminine and seductive smile. Silver bells rang. Thousands of knights' iron armor buzzed and fired fire nets. The cracks in the blue-gold shield's spider web spread. The buzzing shook the souls of the party members, and bloodshot threads oozed out from their ears. The whole sect knelt in the sea and despair surged. Yin Xinyuan's face turned pale. The foundation-building spiritual pressure was flying wildly, and the round-eyed copper bells were wide-eyed. She pulled Yiji's sleeves and robe legs half an inch soft, her voice trembling like a candle in the wind. Master! The spiritual pressure of the 3 golden elixirs collapsed. Thousands of cavalry fire nets burned through the formation. The stench of burnt blood and flesh of the newcomers filled the air. The sect was shattered. Han Xiaojuan's face turned pale, sweat evaporated, and the hilt of the sword evaporated. The tiger's mouth creaked and bloodshot stretched, and he kneeled on the ground and crawled forward with a wave of fear. Master Ye's invincible divine net. But the 3 golden elixirs joined forces to press the iron tower, and the foundation of the old ministry could not stop it for half a breath. Han Xiao vowed to fight to the death, but Chan Feng, a handsome man in gray robes hunting for evil birds, had a yellow and twisted face. The gray net and silver threads danced wildly, and he coughed blood and spurted the ground, and his needle-glazed eyes turned greedy and desperate. For tribes, the dream of a general attack on the black market is shattered. The afterglow of Yi Xianzi's qi training can't stop the sea of golden elixirs, and the protector is in ashes. Yi Kuan's gray face twitched, the middle-aged hair flew around, and his knees were wet with blood. The fairy's kindness changed. The golden elixir roar shook the soul. The eternal soul of the spirit pool was shattered, and the whole family died again. Yi Wei's gray hair was trembling, tears and blood flowed. Yi Ling's pointed face was smeared with blood, and she was shaking wildly. The flesh ball shrunk to the ground and the smell of urine filled the air. 5 members of Aqiang's old team knelt down with thunderous blood boiling, but their legs were soft. They all shouted in fear. The power of the clan leader. The golden elixir is unmatched by thousands of horses, but Suqi's brain blood mountain is just okay. This is the end of the world. The clan members screamed like thunder, and the firelight reflected on their twisted and panicked faces. Their admiration turned to despair. The demon girl's trump card is gone. The jingling sect is broken, and Yi Xianzi is a qi training ant. Zhao Kushijin Danning smiled and withered claws captured the photo from a distance. The spiritual pressure was like a mountain hitting the heart of the formation. The blue-gold shield cracked and shattered, and the edge of the gang members exploded with blood mist into the sky. The severed limbs were wet and sticky, and the fishy sweetness hit the nostrils. He smiled ferociously with bloodshot eyes. The abandoned daughter Yi, Gusu and Igos will be killed by luck. The golden elixir sea slaughtered the clan, and the black market resources were all returned to the 4 clans. Qian Fatty's golden elixir fat palm shot out a heat wave. Sun Tieta's golden elixir iron fist roared. Li Banshi's silver bell charming smile sprayed poisonous mist. Qianqi's fire net fell like the end of the world, and the blue-gold torrent in the center of the array trembled and was about to be extinguished. Yin Xingyun burst into tears and screamed to protect the master. Han Zhao's sword flashed out but was vomited blood and flew backwards. Chun Feng's gray shadow ghost retreated and coughed up blood, and the whole sect collapsed in worship. The golden elixir is invincible. The end of the pure spirit. Yiji in a white dress stood on the high platform. Her eyes were as cold as abyss and she scorned the dust. The corners of her lips curled up in a cold arc. In her arms the prototype of Tu Qiangkang burst out with golden light. Runes and dragon chants shocked her soul. The pain in her palms roared and the trial of spiritual consciousness started. She pretended to be practicing qi and her figure trembled slightly, but in fact the golden elixir phantom swallowed the immortal energy and was almost ready to take shape. She whispered the heavenly edict like a sword piercing the sky. The powerful ants, slaughter the sky half awake. There was a loud buzz, the golden light exploded and the sword body pulsed. The blue and gold torrent merged with the sword intention. The whale swallowed the black mist and the tsunami, corrosive and rich immortal energy came back to the whole audience. Thousands of golden sky nets expanded thousands of feet, piercing the armor of the cavalry, dripping molten metal juice and sizzling to the ground. Zhao's skinny golden elixir withered claws were burnt and the scorched smell filled the air. His eagle eyes widened and bloodshot threads burst, and he howled. The magic weapon is half awakened to purify the sea of spiritual energy? The golden elixir meridians are withered. It's impossible to reshape. A witch! The golden threads pierced the dantian and the golden light fragments jingled, and the hot bloody spring spurted into the sky. The withered corpse hit its knees and twitched. Zhao! Fedi thou! Qian Fat's golden elixir fat palms regurgitated his belly, exploding the greasy internal organs and splashing on the street. Pig-eyed yellow despair. Fat Master's golden elixir is broken. The pure spirit sword is unparalleled. Sun Tieta's golden elixir iron fist shattered and the bones shattered. His chest pierced the brain and blood mist rose into the sky. Li Banshi's silver bell turned into a ghost and cried. Her charming face twisted her silver wires, twisted her neck and burned her soul. The magic weapon is brilliant. Li Er's soul flies away. The head of the 3 golden elixirs exploded together, and the brain was wet with blood. Thousands of knights' armors were shattered and their limbs were piled up. The sulfurous heat wave turned into a tsunami of medicinal fragrance. The black mist of pollution disappeared into ashes, and the fairy light of the city's high-rise buildings shimmered and spiritual pressure surged into the sky. The whole place was still, and the sweet blood rushed to the street. The casual cultivators stared, trembled, and knelt down screaming and worshipping. 3 deities of the purifying sword Si and 2 Jin Dan. Thousands of knights on the mountain of blood. Fairy Yi is the only one in heaven and on earth. Yin Xian's eyes were round and he stared at Tong Ling again. His legs were weak, and he knelt down in ecstasy with tears streaming down his face. After completing the foundation building, his spiritual pressure surged to the peak. Master Tu Qiangkang is half awake. The golden elixir dantian explodes and the meridians are reborn. And the immortal energy is swallowed up by the whale. The whole sect is soaring, and the gods are invincible. Han Xiaojuan's face turned pale. and his red-sword heart resonated with thunder. He knelt down and sweated as the tiger's mouth healed. Master Ye's sword C purifies the spiritual energy C, the peak of the foundation of the old spiritual root. Protector Shao worship forever. Chan Feng, a hunter in gray robe, looked surprised and greedy, his eyes turned to ardent admiration. The gray shadow leaned over and said ghostly, Fairy Yi is half awakened to slaughter the heroes of Jindan. The protector of the black market is bloodbathed and obeyed, conspired to dominate the city. The 5 members of Qiang's old army knelt down and rushed to the edge of the golden pill. Their eyes were filled with fire and roared. The head of the 3 golden pills burst into blood, and the deacon washed away the remaining members of the 4 tribes. The middle-aged man in Yi Kuan's face was shocked and the gray-robed hunter burst into tears. Fairy Jitu's general attack. The whole family has changed the world. The face was smeared yellow with new blood and the corpse was trembling. The fairy sword C flies away to the golden elixir. Linger skins the dog of the 4 clans. Fat Yi Fu, with his greasy face and sweat and urine, rolled his meatball and echoed, the power of the sect master. The resources are dedicated to Yongnu. The clansmen knelt down like a sea and roared in response to the thunder. The torrent of blue and gold expanded the river of immortal energy, swallowing blood. The rattling breakthroughs made the golden elixir prototype at the peak of foundation building. The fragrance of medicine filled the sky and shook the city. Yiji's sleeves waved the golden thread and restrained it. Tu Qiangkang hummed and hummed. The palms of her hands were burning and the half-awake runes pulsed. Her spiritual consciousness penetrated into the heaven and whispered, the black market blood sacrifice awakens, and the ascension ceremony begins. Cold eyes swept over the kneeling sea, and the white skirt stepped in front of the high platform. Her voice was as clear as a sword cutting through the sky. The 4 tribes are in ashes, and the jingling sect dominates the city. Take stock of the war profits. The spiritual stones and magic weapons are all over the sect, and the spiritual pool will expand the black market forever. In consideration of the evil of the party, kneel down and donate resources to spare your life, and unify Yi family. Yiling's sharp face trembled and she rushed forward to donate blood. Her oily hair was messy and her eyes were full of tears. Sect Master Tunan, Uncle Gu's soul is gone, Linger should regret it. All the spiritual stones, medicine and weapons will be skinned forever. Fat Yi Fu's fat lips trembled. The jade box was rolled out, and the smell of urine filled the air. Fuer, kneel down and lick it. The Gu party's resources have poured into the sect. Please forgive me. Gu Han's remnants of more than 10 Qi training members threw themselves on the ground, digging their knuckles into the soil and scratching the metal, making a hoarse ghost cry. The fairy has broken his arm and hangs his uncle's head. The party members have rat eyes. A short moment of time. Let the skin and cramps go away, and the whole family's resources will be donated forever. Yiji's eyes were cold, and the blue-gold torrent swept through the meridians to reshape the high-grade spiritual roots. Their pig faces twisted and cried with joy. Fairies purifying grace. The spiritual roots are reborn, and Gu Dang will worship the pure spirit forever. Yen Xian, with a round face, enthusiastically assisted in the inventory, and the spiritual pressure of the foundation building peak increased again. The round-eyed bronze bell burst into tears. Master forgives the recruitment. We have gained thousands of spiritual stones, gold elixir and dantian fragments to refine weapons. All the black market maps and jade slips have been returned, and the resources of the jingling sect are overflowing. Han Xiao led. The sword of the old tribe was wiped out and the remaining members of the 4 tribes were hiding in the cave. Qiang roared with blood and washed his severed heads. The blood fountain sprayed wet the stone. The patriarch unified the Yi family. The brains of the dogs of the 4 tribes splashed on the street, and the deacons of the old tribe expanded. Chun Feng's gray net spread out the black market on the edge of the black market to wipe out the embers of loose cultivators, and the evil bird smiled. Jade slip. The guardians are colluding. Fairy Yi dominates the city, and the blood sacrifice awakens on the eve of the black market. Elder Yi Kuan and Yi Wei are cultivating the spiritual roots of the gray-robed hunting team. The gray-haired middle-aged man's face is trembling with ecstasy. The elders obey the orders. The high-grade spiritual roots of the entire clan have skyrocketed, and the Yi family has the pure spirit is eternal. The clan members use the purifying heart technique to absorb the immortal energy, and the bones crackled and the qi reached the peak of the foundation building sect. The flames reflected on their worshipping faces, and they screamed like thunder. Yi Xianzi Tu Jin Dan is famous in the city, and his status is as high as the treasures. Fairy lights flickered among high-rise buildings in the city, and wildfires spread. Passers-by worshipped on the streets, and the leader of the cultivators stared wide-eyed and trembled. The Jingling sect massacred 4 tribes of golden elixirs and thousands of knights in one night. Fairy Ye's magic weapon was brilliant, and the powerful ants flew into ashes. The Jingling flag hunted and rose into the sky, and the ancient runes pulsated with golden light. The prototype of Tu Qiankang buzzed loudly in Yiji's arms, and the golden light exploded. The runes danced wildly, and the spiritual consciousness roared. The ascension ceremony began, and a bloodbath dominated the depths of the black market. With a sneer on her lips and golden flames of ambition in her eyes, she led the crowd onto the high platform. The torrent of blue and gold expanded to protect the sect, and the immortal energy swallowed up the black fog in the city. The dawn light fell and the Jingling sect bloomed brilliantly. The world changed because of her, and the sense of accomplishment was like spiritual pressure rising into the sky. There was endless murderous intent hidden in the calm aftermath. The afterglow of dawn shines on the high platform of Jingling sect. The torrent of blue gold pulses like dragon veins. The celestial energy is rich and tangy, mixed with the sweet taste of the river of blood. Broken limbs pile up on the streets, corroding the steel bars and creaking and twisting. The tribesmen kneel in the sea to worship, their faces distorted and fanatical. The cracking joints of the joints and the meridians reshape the high-grade spiritual roots and rush to the peak of foundation building. The sweat on Yen Xion's round face evaporated, her round eyes stared again, her foundation building spiritual pressure surged like the peak of a volcano. She pulled her sleeves and robe, her legs softened and she knelt half-kneeling with tears of joy. Master! The heads of the golden elixirs of the 4 tribes exploded into mountains of blood, and the iron armor of thousands of knights dripped with molten juice. The resources of the Jingling sect are overflowing. On the eve of the black market blood sacrifice, the whole sect has skyrocketed in the form of golden elixirs. The master is pretending to be practicing qi, but he is the only one in the world. Han Xiaojuan's face turned red. His sword heart buzzed with thunder, and the tiger's mouth was healed with blood. He hit his knees and crawled to the ground, before sweating and drying his clothes. Master Ye's sword sea purifies the black mist tsunami. Han Zhao's old team's thunder-blood-burning sky foundation building reaches the edge of the golden elixir. All the jade slips are offered in the black market, and they conspire to bloodbath and dominate. Chun Feng in gray robes hunts the sinister bird of prey, with a handsome face and blazing eyes. Hot worship turns to greed and explodes. The gray shadow leans over and offers the jade slip with ghost words. The fairy is half-awakened and slaughters the heroes of the golden elixir. The protector gray net covers the edge of the black market to extinguish the embers of scattered cultivators. The blood sacrifice in the depths of the black market awakens the ascension ceremony. Yi Zong dominates the city. The 5 members of Aqiang's old team were kneeling in a pool of blood like iron towers. The thunder and blood-boiling spiritual pressure shook the street bricks and shattered, and the roar shook the eardrums. The master is brilliant. The blood fountain in the brain is greasy. The 4 tribes are flying, and the deacon is washing the road ahead of the black market. Yi Kuan's gray face was shocked. The middle-aged man's hair was flying with tears, and he stood up happily. Fairy's kindness will change again and again. The whole family's spiritual roots will unite the Yi family, and the spiritual pool will expand forever. Yi Wei, with gray hair, trembling tears and blood flowing out, returned to the team to die. Yi Lingjian, his face was smeared yellow with new blood and he trembled wildly as he presented the storage bag. Sect Master Tianan. Linger skinned the dog of the 4 tribes, and the resources are all the slaves of the clan. Fat Yifu's flesh ball shrunk to the ground and the smell of urine filled the air, rolling and rolling in agreement. Fuer knelt down and licked the purifying spiritual roots. Gu Party regrets if the cows and horses didn't obey the orders before. The wretched pigs of Gu Dang cried out with tears of joy. Their meridians were reshaping their high-grade spiritual roots, and they were digging their knuckles into the dirt and crying. The fairies will cut off their arms and hang their heads for mercy. Yi Ji, in a white dress, stood in the center of the hunting formation. In her arms, the prototype of Tu Cheong was bursting with golden light, runes spitting out, dragon chants humming, and her palms were burning with pain. Her spiritual consciousness was roaring, and her pulse was about to explode in the black market blood sacrifice trial. She glanced at the kneeling sea with cold eyes, the corners of her lips curled up with contempt for the dust, and her voice was as clear as a sword cutting through the air. The black market blood sacrifice awakens the ascension ceremony. The pure spirit sect expands with a torrent of blue gold, swallows up the city's black mist, and the immortal energy rises into the sky. The entire sect takes stock of the war profits. The spiritual stone and the fragments of the golden elixir and dantian are used to refine the weapon. The remaining power of the red elixir stimulates the rebirth of the meridians, and the black market purification beads help Han Xiao reach his peak. Chan Feng the protector leads the way. The deputy sect leader Han Xiao and the deacon of the protector lineage, Aqiang's old tribe and the vanguard of the bloodbath, Elder Yi Kuan and Yi Wei present a picture of the evil spirits of Gudang, and unify the Yi family to dominate the black market. The clan members roared in unison, knelt down like a sea of thunder, and the purifying heart secret circulated to absorb the immortal energy and hit the prototype of the golden elixir. In the afternoon, the clouds are overcast, and the neon lights are distorted and bloody in the depths of the black market. The door to the cave hidden among the ruins of high-rise buildings buzzes open, and a tsunami of corrosive black mist pours in, along with sulfuric heat waves, acidic and rancid smells, drilling into the nasal cavity. The black market overlord Hardware Alchemy Old Monster Alliance led tens of thousands of monks and cavalry to collapse in the spiritual pressure landslide. The red and black spirit spears and fire nets spewed out distorted air. The leader, the black-robed golden elixir withered bone demon lord, floated thousands of feet into the air with an eagle-eyed smile. The pure spirit demon sect fluke. Fortunately, the 4 tribes were slaughtered. Yiji's abandoned daughter was a chi training ant, and the black market resources were used in the blood sacrifice to ascend. The torrent of blue and gold sacrificed her life. The blood sword golden elixir, fat bald head, trembling fat lips, and spiritual pressure crushed the outpost casual cultivator. The chest collapsed, the sweet internal organs gushed out, and fell to the ground with a wail. The meridians were scorched with electricity. The demon girl slaughtered the sky and half-awake dreams were shattered, and my 5 golden elixirs burned all the spiritual pools. The shadow ghost golden elixir feminine and charming smile made the silver bell ring. The poisonous mist spray corroded the steel bars and creaked. The roar of the thunderhammer golden elixir iron tower shook the eardrums. The iron armor of thousands of knights buzzed and volleyed into the fire net like the end of the world. The black market entrance's blue gold cover spider web cracks spread, buzzing, shaking the soul, and the ears of the party members oozed with bloodshot threads. The entire sex forward knelt on the sea and surged with despair. Aqiang's old subordinate's thunder and blood rushed around the iron tower. His legs were half an inch weak, and his voice trembled like a candle in the wind. Sect Master. The spiritual power of the 5 gene elixir collapsed. 10,000 cavalry fire nets burned through the entrance. The new members' flesh and blood were burnt and the smell filled the air, and the black market was shattered. Han Xiaojuan's face turned pale. Beads of sweat evaporated, the sword handle creaked, the tiger's mouth was stretched and blood stretched, and his knees before crawling to the ground fear surged. Master Ye's divine net is invincible. But the Wujin Dan teamed up with the iron tower to press the top, and the old base building peak could not stop it for a breath, and Han Xiao vowed to die with blood. Chan Feng, a handsome man in gray robe hunting for the evil bird of prey, had a yellow and twisted face, and the gray net and silver threads danced wildly and counterattacked, coughing up blood and spitting needles on the ground. Half awake and regaining consciousness, practicing qi and pretending to be unable to block the sea of golden elixirs, the protector flew away. Yan Shinun burst into tears and screamed at the peak of the protector's foundation building spiritual pressure. Master Tu Jin Dan is acceptable. The 5 golden elixirs are riding on the black mist tsunami. The end of the deputy sect. Elder Yi Kuan and Yi Wei's gray face twitched and the knees were wet with blood. Yi Ling's sharp face was smeared with blood and she was shaking wildly. Yi Fu's flesh shrank to the ground and the smell of urine filled the air. Gu Dang's pig-faced villain shouted in panic. The sect leader is brilliant. The 5 golden elixirs are unparalleled. The black market has a mountain of brain plasma and blood. The end is coming. The screams of the vanguard cultivators exploded like thunder, and the flames reflected on the distorted and panic-stricken faces. Admiration turned to despair. The demon girl's trump card is gone. The jingling sect is shattered, and Yi Xianzi's chi training ants fly away. The withered demon lord's eagle smiles, his withered claws grab him from the air, and the spiritual pressure hits the entrance like a mountain. The blue-gold cover cracks and shatters, and the edges of the gang members explode with blood mist. The broken limbs are wet and sticky, and the smell is sweet. He has bloodshot eyes and smiles ferociously. The abandoned daughter Yiji, the ghosts of the 4 tribes are lucky to be killed. The hardware elixir C slays the clan, and the black market rises and the blood sacrifice returns. The blood knife's fat golden elixir's fat palm shoots out the heat wave. The shadow ghost banshee's silver bell sprays poisonous mist. The thunderhammer iron tower's iron fist roars, and the blue-gold torrent at the center of the formation is trembling. Han Zhao's sword flashed out and he vomited blood and flew backwards. Ah Qiang's old army was burned with thunder and blood, but his legs were weak and he knelt down. Chun Feng's gray shadow ghost retreated and coughed up blood. The whole sect worshipped and knelt and collapsed. The 5 golden pills are invincible. The dream of the black market blood sacrifice at the end of the pure spirit is shattered. Yi Ji, in a white dress, stalks the entrance to the floating black market. Her eyes are as cold as abyss and she despises powerful ants. The corners of her lips curl up with a cold arc, and the golden light in her arms spits out runes, dragon chants and soul-shaking buzzing. Her palms burn with pain, and her spiritual consciousness roars. The black market blood sacrifice trial is fully activated. She pretended to be practicing qi and her figure trembled slightly, but in fact the golden elixir phantom swallowed the immortal energy and was almost ready to take shape. She whispered the heavenly edict like a sword piercing the sky. Black market dignitaries, slaughter the sky, fully awaken. The sky exploded with a roar. The golden light exploded. The sword pulsated and the runes danced wildly. The blue and gold torrent merged with the sword intent. The whale swallowed the black mist. The tsunami corroded the rich immortal energy, and backfired on the entire audience. Hundreds of millions of golden silk skynets expanded 10 miles, piercing the iron armor of thousands of knights, dripping molten metal and making a sizzling sound. The withered claws of the withered demon king were burned, and the stench filled the air. The eagle's eyes were wide open and the blood was splitting. He howled. The ancient magic weapon is fully awakened to purify the sea of spiritual energy. The golden elixir meridians are withered and reshaped. The abandoned girl cannot be reversed by heaven. The golden threads penetrated the dantian and exploded. The golden light fragments jingled with hot and bloody springs. Wish, demon lord, fairy, please spare your life and give it to the black market forever. The blood knife's fat golden elixir fat palms backfired and exploded in the belly, and the greasy internal organs splashed on the street. The pig's eyes were twisted. The fat master's golden elixir is shattered. Slaughter the sky and the sea of swords are unparalleled in glory. The shadow ghost banshee's silver bell turned into a ghost and cried. Her face was twisted and her silver wire strangled her neck. The burning soul's chest pierced the brain. The heads of Wujindan exploded and rivers of blood rushed into the streets. The armor of thousands of soldiers was shattered and their limbs were broken. The sulfur heat wave turned into a tsunami of medicinal fragrance. The black fog of pollution disappeared. The high-rise buildings in the black market were shimmering with spiritual pressure and buzzing in the sky. The whole place was still. The river of bloody sweetness rushed to the street. The passers-by stared and trembled and knelt down with weak legs. They screamed and worshipped like thunder. The purifying sword sea slaughtered the 5 golden elixirs and thousands of horses. The mountains of brain blood and broken limbs piled up. The brilliance of Yi Xianzi's magical weapon fully awakened the sky. The powerful ants above and below are flying to the ground. Yen Xian's round eyes, round legs, soft knees, round face, tears of ecstasy, and the golden elixir prototype at the peak of foundation building. Master Tu Qiangkang is fully awakened. The pulse is reborn, the immortal energy swallows the whole sect, and the invincible black market dominates. Han Xiaojuan's face turned pale, his sword heart thundered. He knelt down sweating and the tiger's mouth healed. The black market purification beads buzzed to help increase. Yi Shi's sword sea purifies the spiritual energy sea. Breaking through the edge, Han Zhao's guardian Yong worshipped and bloodbathed the world. Chun Feng's gray-robed hunter Jun looked surprised and greedy. His eyes turned to hot worship and he leaned over to whisper. Fairy Yi has fully awakened the overlord of the two Jin Dan, the black market resource Jade Slip's sword. After the ceremony, the guardians obeyed and conspired to dominate the world. The 5 members of Aqiang's old team, Thunder Blood Burning Sky, knelt down and charged the prototype of the golden elixir into the street. The sect leader is unparalleled in glory. Global expansion. Yi Kuan, the middle-aged man in gray robes, burst into tears and said, Fairy Jitu attacks the black market. The whole family will unite the continent with overwhelming kindness. Yi Wei, with gray hair and tears, returned to the team to die. Yi Ling's face was smeared with blood, and she burst into tears. Trembling. Fairy sword Sea Ash's golden pill. Linger peels off the black market dog Yongnu. Fat Yifu's greasy face is sweating and peeing, and the meatball is rolling. The master's divine power and resources are overwhelming. Gu Dang, the remnant pig-faced man with tears of joy, shouts the torrent of blue gold. Sweeping the meridians nourishes the high-grade spiritual roots and then rises. Fairy's purifying grace. The black market will always worship the pure spirit. The clansmen knelt down and roared in response to the thunderous blue gold torrent that expanded for hundreds of miles. The fairy energy whale swallowed the blood river and broke through. The prototype of the golden elixir appeared, and the medicinal fragrance filled the black market. Yiji's sleeves waved the golden thread to restrain 2 Qiangkang's buzzing and humming, the burning pain in his palms, fully awakening the runes, pulsating spiritual consciousness and piercing the heavenly path, whispering. The ascension ceremony begins the recovery and purification of global spiritual energy. She glanced at the sea with cold eyes and knelt in front of the black market array in her white dress. Her voice was as clear as a sword. The ashes of the 5 golden pills Fei Jingling sect dominates the black market. Take stock of the looted spirit stones and the fragments of the 100,000 golden pills in Dantian to refine the best magic weapons. The crimson pills have the remaining power to complete the prototype of the sect's golden pills. The black market purification pearls ascend to assist. The Yi family in the unified city expands around the world, and the partygoers listen. Let the blood wash away the remnants. Yi Ling and Fat Yifu Gudang shook their heads and presented the storage bag with messy hair and eyes full of tears. The master's tin and resources are all available to skin the enemy dogs and horses for eternity. Yen Xian, a round-faced man, assisted in taking stock of the rudiments of the golden elixir, and his eyes were filled with tears of joy. Master forgives the black market for its profits. Purify. Han Xiao led the old men to wipe out the remaining party in the hidden cave. Aqiang roared and washed his head with blood. The blood fountain sprayed the stone. The master unified the world. The black market's brains spread to the street, and the deacons expanded. Chun Feng wiped out the black market's embers and offered the ascending jade slip. The guardian conspired with Yi Xianzi to dominate the mainland and ascended to the blood sacrifice. The gray-haired middle-aged elder Kuan Yewe of the team cultivating spiritual roots had a face trembling with ecstasy. The elder obeyed the orders of the whole clan and unified the continent with the prototype of the golden elixir. The people of the tribe used the secret of purifying the heart to absorb the immortal energy, and the Kaka golden elixir burst into flames. The live broadcast buzzed around the world. The high-rise buildings in the city were flashing with fairy lights and wildfires were spreading. The leader of the casual cultivators knelt down on the street with eyes wide open and trembling. The Jingling sect massacred 5 golden elixirs and thousands of horses in one night. Yi Xianzi slaughtered the sky and fully awakened the glory. The powerful ant's brains and blood. The Jingling flag hunted and rose into the sky. The ancient runes and golden glow pulsed. The gang members went out to defeat the remaining enemies around the world. Yiji embraces 2 Qiangkang and hums loudly. The golden light explodes, the runes dance wildly and the spiritual consciousness roars. The ascension ritual blood sacrifice opens the ancient demon hidden in the depths of the higher realm. She has a sneer on her lips, a golden flame in her eyes, and leads the crowd to the high platform of the black market. The blue and gold torrent protects the sect and expands thousands of miles. The immortal energy swallows the black mist around the world. The sunset shines down on the pure spirit sect and unifies the continent. The sense of accomplishment is like spiritual pressure rising into the sky for 9 days. The world has changed because of her. But there was a buzz in the heart of the sword, and the ancient runes were pulsing. The golden light was about to explode. The palm of Yiji's palm was as hot as a soldering iron. The spiritual consciousness penetrated into Wen Tiandao and whispered, "The prototype of the glorious massacre of the sky has just awakened. Full awakening requires the final trial. The bloodbath is about to begin in the depths of the black market." Her ambition shines in her eyes. To ascend to the leadership of the urban immortal world and massacre the sky with one sword.